We'll call the meeting to order,
Yeah.
and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at the agenda? Is there any additions or corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
and 5.
Yes.
Okay, now we'll move on to approving the board minutes from October 27th. Everybody had a chance to read those over. If there's no additions or corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So
Make
moved.
a motion to approve the minutes from the 27th.
I'll second.
Oh, okay. I was going to say Jack beat Teresa, but that's fine.
Yeah, we'll just flip it.
Okay. Motion's been made and second. If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with a roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5.
Yes.
Thank you.
And now we'll approve the minutes from the November 4th board meeting. Everybody's had a chance to look those over. And if there's no additions or corrections, is there a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second again. I was going to try to decide.
Okay.
And then they make a decision.
I can't hardly wait to get the minutes.
And there's
Okay. Now, if there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll move on to public comment.
Eric, can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
I wasn't sure if we needed to have something in documentation about the public hearing, since we were all in attendance as part of the minutes. I know there aren't minutes because it was public comment, but I wonder if we need something on record.
Yeah, I can write that up. I just didn't get a chance to yesterday. So when I didn't get a chance to respond to your email. Yes, I will add some
Okay.
minutes for that meeting.
Oh, that's a good.
I like more.
It's
I
a
need
good
more
point,
minutes
Teresa.
to read.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, Teresa. That should be recognized of what went on at that meeting. So,
Yep.
It was an open meeting, yes.
Yeah, I'll get those typed up and sent out.
Okay.
okay, now we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone who would wish to make a public comment?
Mr. Agadal is on. I muted him. Mr. Agadal, if you would press *6, I think it is, to unmute your phone.
So you muted him. Can you unmute him?
I'm trying. It's not letting me. It just says ask to unmute. It's either *6 or the #6 on your phone to
It's
unmute.
*6.
There we go. There we go.
Got him.
Dave, you want to state your name and your city or township?
This is Dave Agadal with Agadal Construction and Cabinetry in Caledonia Township, Caledonia, Minnesota.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, this is the comment on the Adam Agadal project. And this is on the advice of our lawyers. I've got about a 2-page thing here I'm going to read to you, if that's fine.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, on the advice of our lawyers, I'm making this call to update the status of the Agadal and Arlene project at 11244 County Road 10, Caledonia, Minnesota. In 2014, Adam and Agadal Construction applied for a permit from Houston County zoning to build a shed on this property. We're informed at this time that the construction site was in the floodplain. So Bob Scanlon required us to hire a licensed surveyor to establish a benchmark on this property and install fill to at least 1 foot above flood stage. And we hired Joel Thorson, a licensed surveyor, shot in the benchmark, and that was a $2,300 expense. And we installed fill to 14 inches above this benchmark. He returned to verify the elevation for $800 more. He mailed all this information to Bob Scanlon, and he thanked Joel and issued us a permit so we could start building. We have all the documentation, as does Mr. Lackner, and he can give that to the commissioners at their request. In August of 2020, Adam and Arlene and Ogden Construction applied for a permit to construct an addition to this structure built in 2014. At this time, we're informed that the permit Houston County zoning issued us was incorrect, and the 2014 permit should not have been issued. During the whole process of installing the grade to exceed the floodplain table, Bob Scanlon never once came to view the site. If the Board of Commissioners have hired building inspectors who would actually come out and visit the building sites, this situation will not have been established. And now with the zoning department, they actually need to come out too and view the site so this doesn't happen in the future. And I know zoning has the same problem in a site at Yucatan that they're dealing with at this time. I don't know how many more sites are like this in Houston County that are in violation now. And then Mr. Lackner wanted to know what it would cost to fix this situation. Well, when we built that in 2014, Adam and Arlene had a little over probably $550,000 invested in the property with everything done. In order to get above the floodplain, it would have to tear down the existing building, install fill to exceed the floodplain height, and rebuild back the original. At the 2020 cost, this would be approximately $850,000 to $900,000. We contacted Jeff Griffith of CCC Company, who's a licensed hydrologist, and his employee Brad. The cost to draw up a preliminary plan to submit to FEMA would be $15,000. If the plan is okay, there'd have to be a structural berm that would exceed the floodplain height, and it'd have to be installed. We do not have an estimate on this because we don't know what it all entails at this time. This should be the county's job, as they put us in this situation. We paid for all the permits and assumed zoning had everything correct, and they did not. You have hired a county administrator, and this should be his job to straighten this mess out. We're trying to rectify this without going to court and drag it on like the rock quarry dispute. And on Ogden Construction, as a contractor, we set a time slot to build this structure, and it turned out that it's not getting done. And if this ends up in court, there'll also be a loss of income included in a lawsuit. And this time, Adam and Arlene have a building that requires $13,000 flood insurance per year and would be unsaleable at this point. And any future questions that you have on this, you have to contact Mike Murphy at the Murphy Law Offices, or call Adam, BJ, or Dave Ogedal. And Mr. Lackner has all of that contact information. And I do have one other question. I don't know if the DNR has been informed that the permit was issued from Houston County zoning to build in a floodplain. I'm assuming that this would be a civil matter, but there would probably be a monetary fine imposed by the county because they're in violation. So I want to thank you for the board for listening to our problems here, but I sure would like to have this rectified as soon as possible, because we'd like to get a foundation in before winter so we have winter work. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And we take what you said seriously, and we are trying to remedy this situation. So thank you for your comments.
Okay, yeah, then, like I said, you have our contact, and I would appreciate a call as soon as we can find something else. So thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.
Bob?
Dave, before you go, the plan, that $15,000 plan, is that for a berm?
Yes.
Or for as I
That's
recall?
just for the app. Go ahead,
ahead.
Bob.
Okay, as I
That's
recall.
just for the app.
Okay,
That's just for the application for them to do all the paperwork. This guy used to work for the DNR for 15 years. The guy that we got in contact with, he said, that's the application. We have to apply that. We have to draw that all up and apply to FEMA of what we would do to fix it. And then FEMA has to okay it. So I don't know what the berm would cost, but this is what it takes to get that far. So
Well, this is
I
a
know the
berm.
first thing that,
My question
yes,
is,
right.
when we had talked before, there was a question about the building of the addition, the house addition, and then the removing of the house and the garage. Now, the DNR, Aaron had talked to the DNR, and there was some kind of a possible plan to make a waterway.
Yep.
Is this different than the waterway?
This would have to be different than the waterway because we have to get the existing structure out of the floodplain, Bob, because it's a $13,000 a year expense. So, you know, that's not going to help the existing structure because that's in violation now.
But if I guess I didn't understand. I thought if the waterway was put in, that would make you like an island and it would be out of it. All right.
That's
Well,
what I wanted. We would like a resolution drawn up by Houston County, and we would void the county of any liability if we could get a resolution. And if we put a berm in and they okay it, that we could, that would be done and wouldn't end up in court because we're just trying to rectify this without going through all that.
Right. I agree with that. I
So-
agree with that. But, okay.
So, and it's like I say, if they got any questions, just they'll, you know, we'll have to get in contact with us. We're doing the best that we can on our end, and I would hope that the county is working with us until we get this rectified.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Dave. We're going to
Okay.
try to work on this and rectify it, and we want to work with you.
Okay.
So
Does
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Does Mike Murphy have the address of this, the guy that put the $15,000 plan together?
Adam has that.
Adam's got it. Okay, I can talk to him.
Okay, I'll tell you, I'll give you the cell phone numbers of both these guys if you'd like. Jeff Griffith is the head guy. His cell number is 507-269-4.
I don't know if you should. We'll get that, Dave. I don't know if you should pronounce that over the public meeting. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, no, we can.
Well,
We can get those numbers.
Call Adam. He has both those numbers. Okay.
Okay. Yep. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Any other public comments? Okay. Right now, we'll go to the COVID-19 update from Public Health. Heather, are you? Yep.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's kind of not the best news with the number of cases we've had in the last week or so, but just a real brief update. We're doing the best we can to continue to be a resource for schools. You know, the numbers that are coming in are certainly impacting our case rate, which is one piece that informs school decision making. So that's a big part of what we're doing, and the time and effort that staff are putting into trying to contact these cases can be a little overwhelming sometimes. Sometimes you have to chase down phone numbers, things like that just kind of add minutes to every case. And then, you know, by the end of the day, you're like, where did the time go? You know, one thing we really want people to be mindful of, you know, we're many months into this, and I realize people get fatigued with the variety of guidance and things that come to protecting ourselves and protecting others, but just be mindful of, you know, where they're going, wearing a mask, washing your hands, just be diligent with those things, especially heading into the holiday season. If people aren't feeling well, you know, don't go, consider not going. And I know that's difficult because we've kind of been, you know, our movement has been limited. You know, the other big piece that we're working on is vaccine planning with MDH. I feel that sometimes that information comes in all of a sudden, it's kind of just all thrown at you at once. And then you can go a couple of weeks and there's not any new information with that. But we do have a mass dispensing plan that we've had already for the county, for the Houston County Public Health has done. And we have our kind of gauging our plan for that, but there's going to be some storage and capacity issues with this COVID vaccine. It's ultra cold storage, which we don't have. So there are just some things we need to work out potentially with our healthcare partners. We also want to be sure we're not planning to duplicatively serve Houston County residents. We want to be mindful of if we're receiving vaccine, we have well-intentioned plans to use that, and we're not duplicating things and potentially getting vaccine that we would not use. So those are just kind of a really brief overview. Any questions? Yeah, Jack?
I guess a comment as well as question. I think I heard a place for some CARES money if we don't have that cold storage facility.
So
Yeah.
do we need to have that in Houston County?
The cold storage.
Right.
You know, I'm not saying it has to be in Houston County per se. I mean, it could be a partner that helps us with that. The vaccine will be available in what we're told. I'll caveat that because that story can change tomorrow, which can create its own level of frustration. But what we're told is the vaccine would arrive in 1,000 dose increments. And if it's not able to be kept in ultra cold storage, that vaccine has to be used within 5 days. So
What's considered ultra cold?
it is
40?
like, no, I mean, we're talking like way below zero.
Oh, we're talking freezing. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I don't want to misquote that temperature, but yeah,
Okay.
we're talking, probably colder than 30 below.
Oh, all right.
Is what that is. So that is one of the reasons I think communicating with our healthcare partners and finding out what their plans are for the vaccine or for any vaccine clinics that they have. But anything else? Yeah, check.
Just wondering on these younger kids, you're seeing an increase in the grade school level. Is that true?
Are we seeing that?
Yes.
I think, the update that went out yesterday, our age range is now age 1 to 98. So I would say, when we get 15, 16, 17 cases a day, that's a lot kind of for a county our size. And so I think that is just indicative of community spread. We're seeing household spread as well, kind of when people are gathering together within the same house. And really, if children are younger and clearly require the care of their parents, it's very difficult to, not have that spread through your house. So there are just some things that people can't control. But I would say our age range has certainly expanded with the increase in cases that we have seen to include some of the younger population that we hadn't seen in previous cases.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bob?
Yeah.
Heather, at the land meeting this morning, Donna was talking with regard to her office and the fact she has one person that is tested positive and has people that are quarantined, including herself. This election season, she has the need to get the election information put together and certified to the state so it can be counted and can be used. The farm taxes are due in a couple of weeks. The question being, if the people that are quarantined but tested negative, is there any way of getting them into the office to work in isolation in the office, but where the paperwork is and whatnot, if no other people are allowed to be with them, if they're, wearing their masks and whatnot, but they're alone in the office in order to do the things that are mandatorily required as far as the farm taxes and whatnot. I mean, is there a way to get that taken care of? And we talked about the same thing with Brian as far as like a snow plowing emergency. If we've got snowplow drivers that have had an exposure but tested negative, they're on quarantine. But if they don't talk to anybody, if they just get in their truck and plow and then go back home again, I mean, there's emergency situations and necessary situations, and we got to be able to work around that.
Yeah. Well, just to answer the first part of that, generally people do not test out of quarantine When they're asked to quarantine for 14 days, that is what they're asked to do. We do get that question a lot because it does seem like a logical question. But we've also had individuals who have been on quarantine, tested negative, and in their own mind and their own practice kind of went about their time. 3-4 days later, they became symptomatic and developed COVID because they were a contact of a positive case. There's a lot of variables in that, and I think every office, whether we're talking within Houston County or any business, every work environment is different. There are variables that can be controlled and not controlled, and I would, but the general rule of thumb is people don't test out of quarantine, depending on offices, and some of them certainly are considered I can't think of the right word, the kind of frontline ones that essential, thank you. I couldn't remember the name, essential workers. So I think that would be kind of on a case-by-case basis with the board members, certainly, other ones in that decision, but it's generally not recommended to test out of quarantine. That's certainly not our practice and the guidance that we provide, but each business has a different policy on that situation. So they may, and it's not our, we don't provide that.
I know. You just provide the guidelines, and it's up to the business and in our case, the county, on how to proceed to the best of their ability in order to get stuff done in a timely manner that's required by law. So that's where the situation we're in. We're in a pickle here.
No, I think it's not mandated. It's just guidelines, and I think each office address it in their own way. And I noticed Bob stated it very well, but there is a lot of frustration in the auditor treasurer's office because Thursday is a day we have to certify things, and they can't get it done from home.
No.
Either. So, I think we need to make a board policy of some kind to allow each office to address their individual circumstance.
Yep. And this doesn't involve Heather as far as she's
just giving guidelines.
Right. No offense to you, Heather. I'm just saying.
I'm taken. I understand completely.
Greg.
Well, Heather, she's good with all the guidelines and everything, but like she can't control the businesses. Every business is different.
Right.
I got a daughter-in-law. She's a nurse. She was in contact, so she gets tested right away on the spot, and then she's got to go back to work.
Yep.
And in my wife's situation, if somebody's in contact with her that has COVID, she gets tested. If she's negative, she goes right back to work. So there's so many different rules. And every company is different. How do you gonna, it's a good thing you got some good advice for these people to use.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, hopefully it's good advice, but it is just guidance. And it is certainly not a one size fits all. There's just no way that we can create anything that's one size fits all. We just want people individuals, families, and businesses to make informed decisions. And so we're just trying to help inform that. And if they're considered an essential kind of workplace, provide essential workers, essential services, they kind of have to drill that down themselves to determine how they can set up their work environment, whether that's in a plow truck or in an office, how that's going to work to keep individuals safe.
Yep.
So.
Have you heard any changes coming down from the governor's office or MDH?
I have not. I will definitely be tuning in today. Typically I think he speaks at 2 p.m. from what I've heard. Usually we get a little bit of a heads up as to what that's going to be, but we have not.
Okay.
So,
Jack?
This, I guess, would be a question for Jeff. I had read where the Minlar's office was being closed for a stretch during a transition.
Yeah, the 13th and 14th, Thursday and Friday, the office is closed for training to transition to the new driver's license system. They'll actually have to shut down about noon today to get everything processed and closed out under the old system. And of course, Wednesday's the holiday. So,
Well, my question would be, would that not free our person to help with other?
well,
She's going
the two in that office will be engaged with training Thursday
Yeah.
and Friday with training on the new system. As far as the activities down there, we're doing our best we can with who we have left in the building to help. I spent some time down there yesterday, validating and verifying deposit amounts. And we'll work with Donna to take care of any of the election paperwork that we can get done, whether that's working with the people here or preparing it to be picked up by people. So
I think we can carry on this conversation later in the meeting.
Yep.
Right now, we need to just concentrate on Heather's report here. And if you had nothing more to add, Heather,
No, I really didn't, unless there's other questions.
is there any other specific questions to Heather? Okay. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll come back to it later, but shared with the board, and I just forwarded it to Heather. We did receive an email message last night from Jen Malcolm and the MDH department, but which addresses the positivity rate that we're seeing in the county. So, but we'll come back to that.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Everybody's had a chance to look at the consent agenda. Is there anybody requests or corrections, Bob?
In the consent agenda, there's a person that's getting, in the vouchers, there's a payment to a person for a disaster relief. And then that disaster relief is addressed in the action items. So do we approve the vouchers, including that, before we've discussed the action item?
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't sound right to me.
I'm sure that it's going to be approved. I mean, person's house burns down, they get a relief.
Well, right, yeah, but it should be, yeah. You want to pull that part out, and we'll just, when we approve the one in the action items, we could include it back in.
That'll be fine.
Okay, we'll delete that part for the consent agenda and include it in the action item as all one there. If that's okay with everybody else.
Just table the consent agenda until after the action items.
We could do that too. Let's table it for now, and we'll go to the action items.
Okay.
But first, we have to go to our appointments, which we're
Yep.
late on here. So, presentation by Steve from SSC Executive Director and Bill from Health Benefits Consultants with Holmes and Murphy. Are you guys? I see Steve.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're here.
Good morning.
Yeah, we appreciate the opportunity to talk to the board again. I'm just going to give you a real brief background and a little bit of reminder of what our structure is here at SSC, and then Bill's going to talk to you a little bit about the bid process or the RFP process that we use within MHC. There's 9 service co-ops in the state of Minnesota, and 7 of those are involved in the MHC, or the Minnesota Healthcare Consortium. We are the 9 service co-ops were created back in the 1970s with the purpose of supporting local government and school districts. So that's done in statute. So we are put into place through statute, and that's on the PowerPoint presentation that you should have a copy of. We do not receive any local, state, or federal funding. So we are, even though we are a state entity and technically we are a school district with our own ISD number, we don't receive any local, state, or federal funding like school districts do. So we have to be totally self-sufficient. We do that in a number of ways. Health insurance is obviously one of them, professional development, workforce development. There's just many areas that we cover. So, but I'm not here to talk about all that. I really just want to talk to you a little bit about the structure of what the Southeast Service Co-op looks like, and then the MHC, which 7 out of the 9 service co-ops are part of. So we do have a board of directors here, just like a school district. We actually have a 10-person board. It's currently only at 9 because we had one person resign in the middle of the year right before COVID hit, and we just have not replaced that person. So Tess is one of the 9 people that are on the SSC board right now. We also have an MHC board of directors, which makes up, there's one board member from each of the 7 regions that are involved in the MHC. Lynn Gorski, who is the HR director for the city of Owatonna, she is our board member that represents the Southeast Service Co-op on the MHC board. We also have ex officio members. I'm part of that. I'm not a voting member, but I do partake in those board meetings. We have outside legal counsel. Mark Kinney is our attorney that represents us through the MHC. And then we have a management services agreement with 2 of the service co-ops. So they do a lot of the financial work and things like that. We do have a management committee. Those are the 7 executive directors from the 7 service co-ops that are part of that. So I am one of those 7. And so we work on the process and direction. So we are not health insurance experts. That's why we have people like Bill. That's why we have some of the teams made up that have more of a background in the health insurance field. So, but we oversee those groups and provide direction, and we work on the process and the bylaws and things like that that go to the board. We also have a steering committee that are the 7 directors, outside counsel, team leads, and those are the team that really get into the nuts and bolts of everything. We meet on a regular basis and bring recommendations back to the MHC board. And then we changed this about 1.5 years ago. We now have team leads. So we used to have one person that kind of ran the whole thing for the state. And when that person retired about 1.5 years ago, we decided to change the structure. So now we have teams in place that oversee these things or work on these things. And these are people that have more expertise in the health insurance field. So we've got a finance team, an underwriting team, which Bill is the team lead on, and Bill's going to talk here in a second. We have sales and marketing, wellness, business development, and a project manager. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what the structure looks like. I'm going to let Bill talk a little bit about the bid process because I know that's where some of the questions were. So Bill, I will turn things over to you.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to address your group this morning. I'd like to start by talking about the program from the perspective of how we look at it, and my role as a consultant working for the Minnesota Healthcare Consortium. It's a member-owned and managed program. It's a pool program. It's not run by an insurance company. We use an insurance company to manage the claim payments, certainly, and to provide some high cover stop loss, but it's not an insurance program in that we don't sell insurance. We really market the pool program. When we refer to sales and marketing, that's really directed more at the members, the health plan participants themselves. The work we've done, for example, trying to help your folks understand whether or not they'd be better off under your plan or under a spouse's plan, or what plan designs you want locally, for yourself, because those are all choice items you have in a member-owned and managed pool. Okay, so when we talk about sales and marketing, it's really more directed at the retail level down to the membership. Okay, as far as, could we get the slides back up there? I'm not seeing them. Let's see here. Not that I need them to rehearse, but I did want to go through and mention the fact that, as part of the structure of this organization, in Minnesota, for public entities to be able to pool their health benefits program requires a joint powers agreement, which of course has been created through the enabling statute. The Minnesota Healthcare Consortium is basically an organization of the 7 participating service cooperatives to band together and negotiate and offer benefit plans to their pool members. And the goal, of course, there is to reduce premium volatility by spreading the risk out among a larger number of people. But at the same time, the goal has very specifically been to maintain local control and choice of member benefit plans. That's not coming from Blue Cross, it's not coming from me, it's not coming from Steve, it's coming from you, really. I mean, it's the local control element that the board members, who are representatives of the membership, tell us is important to them. And of course, we're constantly striving at the board's direction to improve member service. There's been a strong movement in the direction of wellness and health management services, which we're trying to apply as broadly as we can. Now, part of our responsibility as pool managers is we have to conduct a market review every 4 years, basically to test the waters as to who should be our claims payer, who should be our stop loss provider, what kind of program management services should we be buying and from whom, okay? If Houston County were to do this on your own, you'd have to do it by statute every 5 years, okay? We subscribe to a higher standard, doing it every 48 months. And this year happens to be the year just before the new contract period for all those program services going out to bid. So what we're doing right now is conducting a market review and putting all of our programs in both the schools, cities, counties, and other governmental agencies out to bid with a contract effective date for those services of 1/1/22. So that's it's coming along in this next few months. We've in fact, the bid notice went out about a week ago. We've already had 6 respondents in the marketplace, and there are others who have given us a possibility of wanting to participate in the bid process. So all of that will be taking place, and we should have information ready for public dissemination sometime in the early spring. Is how we anticipate the results of that bid process to be communicated to the members and the group. Certainly in time for the next renewal cycle for Houston County, which is scheduled to be, well, you have renewal now 1/1/21, but this will affect your 1/1/22 renewal. One last word on the Minnesota Healthcare Consortium. It's constantly evolving. One of the things that I did when I became the underwriting lead was to look at ways to further promote economies of scale. By training, I'm a healthcare economist, so size, to me, matters. And one of the things we did was to spread the stop loss risk for individual high claimants from the local pools, which had prior to 2019, we had been looking at those claims regionally in the Southeast Service Cooperative Region area. We have since evolved that program to now direct those claims for consideration and pooling at a statewide level, which of course has directly had a positive effect on our number 2 goal there, to reduce premium volatility. And that's been largely successful. Our renewal increases this past year statewide have been less than half of market trend, even with COVID. Now, I'll be honest, a lot of the COVID concerns are still evolving in terms of what claims experience we expect to see as a result of COVID. For example, who's going to pay for all these tests? You notice that the testing protocols state now that, yes, you can go to this site and get a test, but bring your insurance card. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that the price of that test is going to be charged to your insurance company? Is it going to be paid for as part of the CARES Act? Is it going to be state funding? Exactly how those testing resources going to be charged. And of course, the next question logically applies to the vaccine that Heather mentioned earlier. When that comes down the pike, who's going to pay for it? All of these issues are on my desk in my trend calculator for next year, and we've made accommodations for that in your rates for 1/1/21. So, we're looking forward to that progress being made in getting a handle on the virus, but we're in for a rather intensive period of treatments and recovery services as we go forward. One of the statistics, though, that I would quote to you today is a really important one. I've been tracking the MDH data daily reports since early April. The 65 plus segment of our population currently accounts for just under 13% of our total positive cases, 47% of our hospitalizations, 48% of our ICU admissions, and 88% of our fatalities. So clearly, if you look at COVID from a trend perspective, the under 65 population, which accounts for the lion's share of your employee population, is far less affected by the virus in terms of intensity of medical care than the 65 plus segment of the population in general. Not to say that there aren't serious issues with some folks in the under 65 segment, but from a cost management perspective, it's a far lower trajectory than for the 65 plus population. I hope that's helpful, and in any event, that's all I had prepared for statements today. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Jack.
Bill, presently the Supreme Court is reviewing the Affordable Care Act. If that were to be canceled, does that play into any aspect of what you do?
It would, from an administrative perspective, from a practicality perspective of coverage. Some of the coverage rules might change for our smaller groups, but I don't really see much impact overall. I mean, the Affordable Care Act really didn't impact us all that much, except for administrative responsibilities. For example, having to measure each year who your eligible employees are and having to report that to the IRS, and having to pay a PCORI fee, which is the patient-centered outcome fund that was established by the Fed. It's a minimal charge. I think it costs you a couple $100 a year, but it has to be filed. Okay. I mean, so no, to answer your question directly, I don't see a significant impact there one way or the other.
Okay. One more quick one. 7 out of 9. What do the other 2 do?
Yeah, great question. So the Sourcewell, which is located in Staples, Minnesota, they have their own pool that they cover in their region, so they're not part of the MHC. So they actually go through Health Partners. And then Metro Exo, which is located in the Twin Cities, they are just not in the health insurance business at all. Most of those large schools in the metro are self-insured. So although we are, as an MHC, we're starting to go after some of those schools because we see some value in it. But Metro Exo, which is located near St. Paul, they are just not in the insurance business at all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bob,
Jack,
you got a question?
I'm sorry, that brings up an interesting point, though, because one of the things the members have asked us to look at for 2022 is a self-insured plan option for pool member groups. I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody who was about to speak. I apologize.
I just knew that Bob had a question. His hand was up earlier.
Just going to ask, with regard to the bid notices that went out, you said there were 6 respondents. Are those respondents insurance companies or who are the respondents?
Well, I can give the usual list of suspects, Blue Cross, Health Partners, Medica, Preferred One. There's also been a number of TPAs whose names I don't have at my fingertips. There's also a group that's offering a different kind of health plan altogether called Bind, which and basically what they do is they offer copay plans, that members can basically purchase according to their specific healthcare needs. It's a new concept, and we've received word that they're interested in quoting on the MHC programs.
So when you send out the request for proposals, they give you a proposal based on what they can offer, or do you have a specific set of requirements for them to cover?
Well, we give them, we basically position it 2 ways, Bob. We say, here's what we have now, we'd like you to quote on that, okay? And then we give you artistic license to propose whatever program recommendations or enhancements you may choose to make. And that's how groups like Bind are attracted to us, because they know that while they could not meet our current plan specifications, they could be a potential, partial solution. We're kind of structuring this going forward as an unbundled approach. We may look at the potential of doing business with more than one entity. I mean, whereas historically in the past we've always worked with one entity, we're thinking that going forward we may choose several to work with. It's like one size no longer fits all among many of our members. That's what we're hearing from our groups. So we're looking to become even more flexible in what product offerings we give in the future.
When you get proposals from like that firm Bind, you're open to what they offer and or look at that with an open mind, saying, hey, that might sound like it'd be a good idea for some people.
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, it's, for example, one of the plan designs we're looking at, and we're already starting to think in terms of an MHC or product portfolio. What if we designed a program that was aimed specifically at the needs of young families? Okay, and another plan might be designed to focus coverage in the area of diagnostics for those of us who are getting to the point where diagnostic concerns are a primary healthcare need we have. One of the things that we're seeing, it's hard to imagine with all we've gone through what good might come out of this pandemic. But one of the things that we're seeing, and I'm seeing as a healthcare economist, is that we're shifting our focus away from a singular focus on financing, how we fund our health insurance, our health care, to what health care are we really looking to purchase and how are we purchasing it? And then the other side of that question, how is it being delivered to us? What requirements are we placing on our provider organizations and when they provide healthcare resources to us?
But if the Affordable Care Act gets reenacted and built upon, didn't that sort of limit us on options? I mean, it was a one size fits all. I mean, in order to cover all the plans out there.
It's hard to imagine what will come in its place if it is overturned, because no one on either side of the aisle has been talking about eliminating the pre-existing condition waiver.
Right.
Although one party is feared that would come next. I can't address that because I can only listen to what we're being told from both sides of the aisle. But the pre-existing condition limitation is really the waiver is really the linchpin to that whole program.
Right.
And because if you remove that, now you're going back to allowing people who are healthy to buy insurance that's risk rated according to their healthy status, and the remaining population that's less healthy would then have to pay more than they are now. Okay, so that's really an important feature. So when I dismiss the effects of the ACA being overturned earlier as being inconsequential, Jack, that may not entirely be true if they went so far as to remove the pre-existing condition limitation waiver. That would be a sea change that would impact us considerably. It might impact us for the good in some cases. It really depends on what side of that line you happen to be on. If you're younger and healthy, you could pay a lower premium, but if you're older and not so healthy, you're going to be paying more, potentially a lot more.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Steve and Bill. Yep. Or Teresa, you had something?
I'm going to say, will COVID be considered a pre-existing condition with all the future problems coming from it?
Well, yeah. I mean, like any other disease for which you have been diagnosed with, the flu is a pre-existing condition limitation. Diabetes, there's no limit to what would fall into that definition. It's technically in the old days, and I've been around long enough to remember when we did have pre-existing condition limitations, and basically the standard rule that insurance companies use was this: if any condition for which you were diagnosed or received treatment for 12 months prior to the effective date of your coverage would be limited in scope. In other words, that would be excluded from coverage for the first 12 to 18 months of your new policy, depending on the terms of your new policy. So yeah, you could be flying without coverage for a pre-existing condition should a pre-existing condition limitation be imposed upon you. Now, those policies do exist already. I mean, the Affordable Care Act did not affect all healthcare policies. all group insurance policies, like the one you have with Houston County through your pool program, is a group insurance program. No pre-existing condition limitation is allowed. But if you were to purchase one of those indemnity products, like, I don't want to pick on any one company, but you know, the company with the duck that sells critical illness policies or hospital or accident policies, well, those policies all have pre-X in them. Okay, so that if you bought a critical illness policy from the duck, okay, but you were already diagnosed with cancer, you're out of luck. You know, because that's not only excluded temporarily, it's excluded, period. So, you know, and that's the concern that most people should have when it comes to how far they would go in eliminating the pre-X or adjusting the pre-X with the Affordable Care Act, depending on what happens once the Supreme Court gets a hold of it. And there's many possibilities. They could leave it alone and there'll be a continuation of no pre-X allowed, okay? Or they could modify it to, you know, to mitigate pre-existing condition limitation coverages for some specified period of time. It'll be an interesting, you know, battle if they touch it, quite frankly. But, you know, there's no early indication that they intend to do that. But then again,
I think along with that, the two things that stand out for MHC is, number one, we are truly member owned. So you as a member, you have a vested interest in the MHC. And the other thing is, unlike a lot of our competitors, we have a lot more flexibility in the plans that we offer. So all of our members are not on the same plan, not even on the same two plans. We can listen to our members as far as what you want, as what your deductible is, what the benefits are. And we're able to tailor, in most cases, exactly the type of plan that our members are looking for. So most of our competitors are not able to do that. You get 2-3 options with some of them. PEEP, for example, you're just extremely limited with what they can offer. So we are able to tailor, you know, our plans, and we have multiple plans out there that our members have. So I think that's what separates us.
Yeah, Steve raises a very good point. I don't imagine, regardless of what the Fed does, that the MHC, member-owned and managed, nonprofit, self-insured pool would choose to reimpose a pre-existing condition limitation. It didn't have a pre-existing condition limitation in place prior to the ACA. So I can't imagine that the ACA would affect that decision one way or the other. It's not a question of what you would do, it's a question of what you could do, really. Right now, the Fed's saying you have no choice, you can't do it. But even if that restriction were to be removed, it's still your choice whether to pull the trigger on imposing a pre-existing condition limitation. Considering that you've never had one before, I don't see your and knowing your membership as well as I do, I've been working with your groups for over 15 years now. I can't imagine that you would vote to impose a pre-existing condition limitation.
That wouldn't be very popular.
No, it would be in your case, it would be a self-inflicted wound. Okay.
No, we are definitely not a one-size-fits-all, which I think is to the advantage of our members. You know, and for example, when we started this RFP process for carriers, Tess told us, asked the question right away, would the new carrier be required to provide service in Wisconsin? We have a lot of our members, and you're one of them, on the Wisconsin border or the Iowa border, because if we had a carrier come in that didn't allow our members to use Wisconsin healthcare or Iowa healthcare, it would be a deal breaker. You'd be out immediately. I mean, your unions and everything would vote. So that's where I think, and so Bill and I are both on the RFP committee. I mean, those are the things that we're going to look for, because it's got to make sense for our members. And we've got a lot of school districts and cities and counties that are on those borders, and that's important to you. So that's what we're going to be fighting for.
All right. Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Anytime.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Let's move on to action items. Action item number 1 is consider approving agreement with the City of Caledonia on the installation of water main loop support to the highway building project. Brian, we had a city council meeting last night. I caught the tail end of it, but you want to bring us up to date?
Yeah, so we had a city council meeting last night. Jeff and I were on there. Eric got on there a little bit late, but ultimately, the agreement that the board talked about a week ago, as far as 2/3, 1/3 cost sharing, 2/3 county, 1/3 city, that was agreeable to the city. We sent them a draft agreement. They had their attorney review it. He had a couple, sounds like minor modifications to make to that agreement. So they did not approve the exact language at last night's meeting, but they did agree in concept to everything that was proposed. County essentially works with the city's engineering consultant to design up the water main. The county oversees the project, and at the end, the county pays 2/3 and the city pays 1/3 of the total cost for the project. So the latest estimate is roughly $130,000 for the work. So 1/3 cost of the city ends up being about 45,000, and the county will have 90,000 or a little under. That's where it's kind of looking currently. We have had discussions with our Weiser brothers as far as cost by looping this water main and the impact to the building alone, and we might be able to eliminate the pump by doing some other modifications as well. So hopefully this extra cost for the looping the water main benefits us elsewhere, and it's not as big a hit as what it might look initially. So with that said, I guess, Jeff, if you want to chime in, we don't have an official agreement, I don't think, to approve today. But like I said, in concept, the city does agree to everything that's been proposed.
So basically, that we just got to have a consensus here that we're agreeable to, and then we'll do an official action on the final contract.
Yeah. Sounds like the city's lawyers are just making some verbiage changes. We don't have the formal agreement back from them yet. But.
How's everybody feel about this?
I think we got to do it.
Okay.
We'll continue to work to finalize that with the city, and I'll bring it back once we have it to formally approve. So.
Yeah, I feel that we need to the money we're going to save for the pump and stuff will help defer some of the cost for our 2/3 portion. So I think we have to move forward and agree to do this. So,
and 2/3 beats full price. So
correct.
And we have to do it, period. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we did explore other options and exhausted those, so it's not like we're just folding over here. We did look at other options, and they didn't work out. So, all right, let's move on to action item number 2. Consider approving bid package for the pre-engineered metal building. Brian?
Yeah. So I see Kevin Berg is on. So. And if you want to chime in at any point, you can. I do have the bid result sheet in front of me, but I don't have any more, really any more detail than that. So we bid out bid package number 1 included the pre-engineering metal building, the supply only. Received 2 bidders on that part. The low bid was American Buildings Company out of El Paso, Illinois, at a base bid of $384,010. So the recommendation is to approve them being the low bid for that category. The second category was the fabric covered buildings for the sand and salt. We talked about rebidding that out with some changes in the scope. So no approval on that today. And the other item that was bid out was work category 31A, the site work, which the low bid was Brazier Construction Company out of Rochester for a bid of $974,770. So the recommendation for approvals today are for that work category 13A and 31A.
And on the back page, the unit prices for excavation, fill, and recycle block.
Yep. So so then the unit prices, since the low bid would go to Fraser, ultimately we'd be accepting the Fraser unit prices. They were low on two of the three categories. That third category would be pretty minimal stuff there. So even though they're not the low cost, you'd still award them. That is your recommendation, Kevin, right?
Yes.
And did
Can we
this fall-
approve these all in one motion?
Yes.
I would make that.
Jack makes a motion to approve bid package 13A and 31A for the site work. 13A being the metal building portion. And then also for the unit pricing. Is there a second to that?
I'll
Second.
second it.
Oh,
We'll give that to Bob second. Any further discussion?
How did these line up with estimates?
You want to pull that back up there? The estimates? Oh, the estimates on the site work was actually quite a bit higher. And that we discussed that in committee.
Yeah, this sheet doesn't have the estimate on it. Let me see if I have that handy.
All right. So
I can pull it up if you want me to, Jeff.
So site work was higher, is it fairly close as far as the metal building?
the metal building, that one was considerably higher. Oh, for the estimate you're talking? Yeah, I don't. What was that again, Brian? You're going to get that?
Oh, I asked if Kevin can chime in on that. He's had a better chance to review everything in detail.
Kevin, you got some answers to that question?
I don't have it to memory, so let me try to pull it up too here. And I'll
Yeah,
comment.
I can't remember either.
Metal building we're talking, is this a new shop?
The metal building is the shell of the shop. Yep.
This is the right
Okay.
screen I've got up. Brian?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Okay.
22.
Yep.
So site construction you're showing there, yeah, we had a considerable upcharge for, we had 525, of course, accounted for, but it's a little deceiving in that soil
Right.
stabilization and the demolition,
Was separated.
they're all rolled into that number, so it's a little deceiving what you're seeing there. So it's not as big a discrepancy as what it might appear.
Right. It was, if I remember right, it's like 270,000 higher
Yeah.
than something
Yeah,
like
in that
that.
neighborhood. Yep.
Yep.
And it has largely to do with the fact that it hadn't really gone through engineering yet, and none of the underground piping was in place for the stormwater or for the water laterals. Obviously, we make some allowances for that, but you never quite know how it's going to come off the engineer's drafting board until the day it does. So the other thing is that we have to over excavate some 18 feet in some areas there to do soil corrections, which at the time we put a budget to it, it's just a guess really as to how extensive that has to be.
And the building shell?
You scroll down, Brian, can you?
Is it on page 2 or page 3?
It's right there. So pre-engineered building and insulation. Now, what we're talking about today does not have insulation with it. That's just the pre-engineered building, and it is just the structure not erected. So there you go. So I think it aligns fairly close with what we anticipated from the cost of the steel building. It's important we get that thing ordered because the 19th, I'm being told, it's going to go up 5%, as many
Yep.
things are these days.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but I think that
Curious, that's all.
the steel building itself aligns pretty close to what we anticipated.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. If there's no other further discussion, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Passes. Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll move on to action item number 3. Consider approving airport farmland lease agreement. Thank you, Kevin, by the way.
Yeah, so approximately every 5 years, we go out for crop rental prices at the airport for the portions of the airport property that is far enough to the runway that can be cropped with low height crops. This year, we received one bid from Jameson and Jenny Berg. They bid $126 per acre, total of 17.63 acres, which makes a grand total of $2,221.38 for the annual lease. The previous lease agreement was at $100 an acre. So overall, I think we got good prices this year, and my recommendation is to approve the lease.
Is there a motion to approve the lease agreement?
Move to approve.
Is there Greg seconded it. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll move on to action item number 4. Consider approving resolution 2054 to vacate easement along County 17. Brian?
Yes, so Houston County got a request from TJB Farms LLC to vacate an old portion of County 17 right away, east side of the intersection with Engen Road. That roadway was realigned back in 1976, and the old right-of-way is no longer used by the county. So I've worked with that landowner out there, worked with our county surveyor, pulled some documents together to submit to the board. On the phone is David Engen, so he can discuss his side or his concerns with the county vacating this roadway, or the old roadway. The older right-of-way he does use to access his field. So his parcel butts up against Engen Road. So he theoretically could access through his own property to get to his field, but it's easier to access through the old county right away. So I've offered to have the landowner that would get the majority of this land back, if the county did vacate the land, for them to be on. They sound like we're not going to be on this meeting today, but they were offered to participate as well. So I guess I don't know if you want to have David speak on his behalf right now, or if you guys want to as a board want to discuss this more.
We could hear his. We listen to David.
Mr. Engen, I've muted you earlier. If you would press *6 on your phone to unmute, and then you can address the board.
Hello, this is David Engen.
We hear you, Dave.
Thanks.
Yeah, I took over this farm from my dad, and at that time, the road, Highway 17, in 1976, was moved and straightened, and the old gravel road was retained as a public road for field access for the landowners at that time. My dad and Chester Frichty, my dad Stanley Engen, made an agreement and decided to divide the old Highway 76 for their own use, the east side to Chester and the west side to Stanley. A map was drawn up and a copy was given to each side. I've been abiding by that ever since. For safety, I need to get to my gate off the main road. for enough room to swing in with a big piece of equipment. I've been doing this since 1976. County road, being it was a county road, I never thought there would be a problem. The neighbors used to get along. From what I can see from the dirt excavation Toby Berchter has done, he also needs to use the road to get to his gate, or that I need to get to my gate. He also needs to use that road to get to his field. My main concern is getting safely to my gate without having to park on a hill. That's what has been done all this time. I'd have no objections of Toby building within the 50-foot setback if that's his problem, as long as I can get to my gate and on the old road. Thank you.
Okay, so technically this is still county property right away. It was never returned back to township or anything like that?
That is my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, so from what we can find in our records, going through our surveyor and recorder's office, is that records of where the old roadway was. It was there by, probably originally created by use. There was no records as far as what the actual width of that old right-of-way was. But there's also no record of that old right-of-way ever being officially vacated. So yes, the county has some old right-of-way. You can argue as far as, was that old width, 3 rods, 4 rods, whatever width. But we know the county does have official underlying rights out there in one manner. With the vacation docs, documents that were prepared, we're not specifically calling out what that old right-of-way was for width. It's just referred to as the old right-of-way that would no longer be needed by the county. And this by the county, it's not saying that there's not other uses from Mr. Engen or other, utility easements or utilities that go through that property.
Brian?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering,
Yes.
what brought this to the forefront to begin with? I guess I'm confused.
Yep. So Toby and Jean Berchter, however you pronounce their last name. Sorry. Okay. They brought it forward to the county with the request to vacate it. They want to put a building on that property. Initially, they had it staked out right within the middle of the old road bed. So when that happened, all of a sudden the county was, put on notice that there were stakes out there. There was, building permit submitted to the zoning department. Mr. Engen, noticed that as well.
We lost Brian.
Yeah, looks like we lost Brian. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to shut my camera
Video
off and
off.
see if that works.
That's better. We know what you look like, so you can keep talking.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how much of that you heard, but so initially the landowner staked a building in the middle of the old road bed, and that spurred conversation between the zoning department and myself and Mr. Engen, being cut off from access to the gate that he uses to access his field. And we got into this big conversation as far as, well, first off, from the county standpoint, no, we can't build it there. We knew that from day one, that where it was staked, he couldn't build because of the old right-of-way being owned by the county still, or having county rights still. That's what started it. Now, ultimately, the building location has moved from where it was originally planned, where that new building location would be outside the right-of-way, but it still is within setback locations. That building is farther to the east of what is needed to access the field, but the landowner would still like to vacate it. So it's spurred by a request from the landowner.
So the new building is still going to be within the setback of our new road from 1976.
yeah, see if, yeah, so here's the property in question, or where we're looking at vacating. The old roadway used to come through here.
Yep.
Can you see my cursor?
Yep.
Okay, it used to come through here, and then it came down along here and connected back into 76.
All right.
So this is the portion we're looking at vacating. Now, access to this parcel currently comes in through the old roadway, and then there's a gate right about in here where the gate goes through the fence. The new building site is over here.
Okay.
So the new building site is beyond where this gate is.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can't speak about how that building is going to be accessed, if their intention is to keep this road in, or if their intention is to build a different road coming somehow else. But where this building location is, it would not cut off this access if the county chose to vacate this, retain this portion. Which, you know, my conversation with Mr. Engen earlier today, I think that's his biggest concern is the portion from here to here.
Yeah.
Now, could this driveway be moved from here onto the other side of the fence line and be put over here? As you go through the field, this is fairly similar grade as what it is down on this side. The only real impact for elevation and for slopes is right when you turn off the roadway is flatter here than what it is over here. Now, are there areas around the county where field accesses are steeper off roadways than what it is right here? Yes. Is it nicer to have a flatter area to turn off the roadway? Yes. So I do see both landowners' viewpoints as far as, you know, why can't this driveway be moved 50 feet over or come differently? Although I can actually, you know, I can see the other side of, you know, it is flatter, so it does make it easier. Here you pull totally off the road, and then you how about off your tractor, you open up the gate, you're totally away from the roadway, versus over here, you'd have to move some fence lines back in order to make that same type of thing happen.
But if we were to retain that right away for that short stretch, then we would be responsible for that as a county.
You know, here I zoomed in so you can see the pass. Are we responsible? No, we don't need to maintain it. You know, it's.
You sure about that?
We have other areas where we have back slopes and stuff. Well, I can double check on that just to verify.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of areas where we don't go to every square foot of our right of way and mow and make sure that everything is accessible by vehicles and stuff for every inch of that right of way. We maintain what's needed for safety purposes, you know, for the roadway benefits and drainage. We haven't maintained this other older right of way area for since more than likely 1976. I don't think anyone's requesting that we go out there and maintain it now at this point. I could, you know, speak with Sam and get some, you know, legal opinion and advice if we do need to have any, or if we have any maintenance obligations for that. You know, it's, you know, driveways within the right of way accessing or connecting to a county roadway that's not maintained. Once you leave the road surface, I would view it the same way as any other driveway connection.
But what's in front of us now is a vacate of the whole right of way.
Yes, but you know, if the board chooses to do something different, we can easily modify the map or modify whatever document here and bring it back to the board at a future date. Or we can not vacate anything or vacate all of it. So,
are the two parties willing to negotiate and talk on this and come to an agreement, or?
Well, doesn't
Surely
it
am.
we're just vacating, we have a choice of vacating the whole road or the portion of the road minus the first portion that is access to his farm? Is that our question?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that, or you can vacate none of it. Whatever, the board wants to decide.
Usually how this would work is that if we vacate it, then it's between the two landowners to come to an agreement on access or easements or whatever. So
What if Richters wanted to fence that off so nobody can get in there because they want to build a building up there? I suppose they don't want people driving in there looking around in that building. So what if they put a fence through there? Then what?
if it's vacated, they could do that.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, that's legal then, right?
If it is vacated, they could. If it is not vacated, they can't.
Yep.
So if they want to pasture it or something down the road, how do they go about that then? Fencing around that road, or you just, I think we should vacate it and let them guys worry about it.
I mean, yeah, the way it looks to me is you either vacate it all or nothing. And if we start doing portions here and there, I just don't want to be, as a county, held liable for that right away portion of right away.
Brian, can you bring up that picture, that
Beacon?
Yep. And I have some pictures from actually in the field too, if you want me to open up some actual pictures.
I just want to look at this, the
Beacon.
yeah. So,
Yep. So the building is right in this area is where the proposed building is now at.
right. If we vacate all of this within that red line, what happens to Engen Road?
We would not be vacating the Engen Road. So if you look at the resolution that was drafted, it says under item number 1 of now therefore be it resolved, the last 3 lines of that says excluding Engen Road right away.
And
You'd vacate.
how wide is Engen Road right away?
Is it 2 rod or 4 rod?
I don't have that right in front of me right now.
Well, according to that, the sketch that you got here, you got a little corner on the quarter section line, and then the rest of the long stretch that used to be the old highway. So the gray area is what portion is what we're vacating, correct?
I don't.
Yes.
Correct.
It was in the packet, Bob. But
I don't. I didn't memorize that, and I can't see it from the picture.
well, I printed it
Yeah,
off. That's why I got this.
Brian,
I will try to get that.
Brian, I'm gonna take the screen for a second and I'll pull that up. There, you should now see that
Okay.
diagram.
There you go.
Let me get this out of the way. Okay.
Yep, and I can pull out the township documents if you want me to and look at that width, but I think it's a 66-foot, 4 rod right away, but it could be 3 rod.
I think you're right, Brian. I think it's a 66.
The question I have is, if it's a 66-foot right of way, I know the gate is, looking at this picture, farther to the right of Engen Road. Can the gate be moved over to within the Engen Road right away?
Yeah.
Or it's got a steep bank to it or something right there?
No. You could move it.
He could have access off of his property there. Yep.
But it's not flat, or it's not.
Well, it'd have to be some work done to it. Yeah.
Couple loads of rock and that'd be a pretty nice driveway.
Well, I think he's looking at distance where he's got some length where his equipment doesn't stick out into County 17 too. Oh, it wouldn't, because the right of way is going to be gone. Okay, never mind. All right.
There is another caller on the line. I don't know if that's the other property owner or not. If it is, *6 to unmute if you'd like to comment.
Yeah, we'd like to hear from Berchters if they're on.
somebody at extension 6357.
359.
It's 59 on mine screen.
59, sorry, 59.
Maybe we should consider just vacating the whole road and then work it out as far as their easements.
Yeah, I kind of look at, the more I think about it, I think we need to vacate the whole thing and not be
Yes. I
responsible.
There's no use or purpose for the county to maintain
Nope.
that from
Nope.
a county use perspective.
Is that a motion, Teresa?
I'll make a motion to vacate the road. The old,
Oh, God. I maintained that road for 30 years. County never had to do anything.
Well, Dave, this is how the procedure works. If it's requested to vacate and the county has no longer any use for it, they have the right to ask for that vacated portion. So
I need an easement to get to that gate.
but the way it looks to here that on the map that you could access your land off Ingen Road. Could you not?
If I want to park on a steep hill with a big load and hope my brakes hold while nobody comes up the hill and rams into the back of me. You see, there's a blind hill behind there that a car can come flying up that hill and not see somebody parked. For safety purposes, it's best to leave it where it is.
What kind of a relationship do you have with the other people as far as agreeing on an easement?
I don't know. I have been getting along with them fine until this came up.
David,
Well-
don't you have an excess down on the bottom, on the flat down there by that tree?
Would I have to build a road to the top of the hill to get to my fields up there?
I don't know. I was just wondering. I know you got a fence gate down there. I was just wondering, is that a field road so you can go right up in there or not?
That just enters into a pasture where the wooded pasture is. There's no road to get to the top of the hill. There's a 4-acre field I have to get to up by the quarry. It would be a lot of expense to build another road on my own property and grub out all kinds of trees to get there.
but it sounds like Jack mentioned you could work with your neighbor on an easement.
Well, if it was put back into landowner use, who owns the road?
Well, technically, the landowner that owns that land owns the road. So you'd have to get an easement. That's how it usually works. So.
Okay, well, you said the property line 50-foot setback. That would be enough to leave that road for me to drive to my gate.
Well, the setback is one thing, but the property is still owned by the Berchters. So, I would advise that you would speak with them and try to work out an agreement in order to have an easement through there. As a county's position here, and Dave, I understand where you're coming from. I do, but as a county position here, this is a vacated easement that should have been vacated probably a long time ago. So, we need to clear this up.
Well, my dad and Chester Frick along on it. They have a actual drawing of the agreement and writing of the agreement on it that I also gave to Berchter and back in the when he bought the farm.
Okay.
And nothing was notarized or anything, but I stated that it says I mentioned that already, that my dad and Chester Frickty had decided that Chester would use the east side and we would use the west side. Well, since that time, Chester had built terraces on that road on his side to keep the water from washing out his driveway down below. So he always used the upper part, and we had no problem with that. And Berkner also uses the upper part to get to his field. I have no problem with that. It's just that I have to get to my gate, and if you leave it as a county road, it solves the problem. And if he wants to build a building, I don't have any objection of him building too close to the lower part of the road. The east side. As long as I can get to my gate, that's all I care about.
Question would be, apparently this was done in 76 when they changed 17, which is 44 years ago. So that this roadway access through the gate has been used for many generations. If this goes to court, is there an, does he have an easement because he's maintained it and used it for that many years?
Well, that would be up to the court and how the.
Do you have any paperwork, David?
What's that?
Do you have any paperwork to show any of this?
All I have is the map that my dad and Chester wrote out in the agreement. It's a photocopy, all done in hand writing.
Well, the county doesn't get involved with easements or property or reuse. This is strictly a vacating of a right of way.
Unused right of way.
Unused right of way. I think this is how we have to treat it.
Well, who pays taxes on that road?
The landowner always pays the taxes on the road.
So the property that lies under the road is taxed like field land.
I don't think it's taxed like that. No.
Okay.
Because I got roads that go through my property and I pay taxes on that too. So I mean that's how it works. It's been that way forever. But
that's not the issue here.
Right.
And
So Teresa, you made a motion.
made a motion to vacate the road.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any more further discussion? Any discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
All right. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Oh, I understand Mr. Engen's issue with regard to the property. I agree with what you had said, Eric, so I vote yes.
District 4.
Yes.
And District 5.
We didn't hear that, Greg.
Yes.
Okay.
Passes.
And Dave, I suggested you get a hold of Toby and you guys work out an easement agreement and see if you can get something in writing. All right, we'll move on to action item number 5. Consider approving resolution 2055 final acceptance of the Farner Asphalt Sealers contract. Brian?
Yes. So, yep. So we have 2 separate contracts here coming next. It's really, consider it, like part 1 and part 2. We hired Farner Asphalt Sealers to do crack filling for us. Or actually, never mind. This is the seal coat one. So this is seal coat out of seal on County Stated Highway 24. The original contract amount, $269,548.53. Work certified is $260,293.42. So basically a match right in with the original contract, slightly under due to slightly less oil usage. So recommending approving and closing the project out.
Is there, okay, motion's been made to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Teresa seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
Sorry, who made the motion? Sorry.
Bob made the motion. Teresa seconded it.
Thank you. All right, roll call. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
And District 5?
Yep.
Passes. Thank you.
Now on to action item number 6. Brian, is this the seal coat one?
Yep, this is the crack filling one. So this is CP 2020-09, which is crack filling. We have the funding is split out between 2 different types of projects. We have the airport project and County State Aid Highway 26. The original contract amount was $20,400, and the work certified was $20,408.16. What we essentially told the contractor is, we're going to limit you to the amount of pounds in the original contract. We're not going to allow you to go over. Just with finishing up a crack, ended up being a total of $8 over. So they sealed about 70% of the airport cracks. And then on County 26, they got as much as they could with the poundage, and then they stopped. So recommending approving this or filing out this contract.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, proceed with roll call.
District 1?
Yes.
2?
Yes.
3?
Yes.
4?
Yes.
And District 5?
Yes.
Thank you.
Action item number 7, consider accepting the Arlen Falk 2020 grant for work on the county airport. Brian?
Yes, so a couple months ago, the county submitted for the Arlen Falk Foundation grant for some work at the airport. That work consisted of installing a new credit card chip reader, which what that does, it protects the county for future fraudulent charges. If we don't have a chip reader out there and someone uses the credit card system, if they dispute charges, the county could be left on the hook for it. If we have the chip reader, it provides some additional protections to the county. Additionally, there's a 30-inch culvert that crosses underneath the runway in the middle of the runway, and the condition of that culvert is getting to the point where it has a bunch of small holes forming in the middle of that pipe, and near the inlet end, the bottom is totally corroded away and gone for probably about 30 feet long. The bottom 12 to 18 inches pipe is totally missing. So we want to line that culvert, and then preparing for an environmental study for buying additional land for use for future hangars. The total of those 3 items, the local cost, local taxpayer dollar with the original project estimate was $23,175. So that's what we submitted for, is that we would have non-county funding pay for the majority of these projects, and then the Arlen Falk Foundation has agreed to pay for $23,175, which is the local cost for those 3 projects. So the recommendation is to approve this. Since this was originally submitted, we have had some changes with our funding, which it might not be able to use all this money exactly as it's been provided, and their project costs have gone down in the one manner, and some funding matches with the CARES Act has changed. But overall, we'll use this foundation money the best we can, within the approval that they provided.
So by accepting this grant, does this lock us in and tie us into expanding the airport? Like purchasing more land and making bigger hangars and all that?
I would say no with this. You accept it if we don't ultimately spend the money and proceed with this project. We'd return that money back to the foundation. 2 out of the 3 projects are ones that I would absolutely recommend that we go forward with no matter what, which is the credit card, chip reader upgrade, and the culvert. Lining.
Right. The third one was the purchase of land, wasn't it?
That one is for the environmental study. So what that is, it's $6,000 toward the environmental assessment study.
Okay. All right.
The EA study is estimated cost of $60,000 to do the study. What that does is it determines if that land is suitable for the proposed use prior to the county buying that land. So it's just a study to decide if we should buy it or not. We do have a meeting set up with that landowner later on today to try to get his feel for his willingness to sell to the county.
So aren't we putting the cart in front of the horse here then by accepting this grant? Or am I wrong?
Typically when you're using federal money, you have the steps to follow is that you do the environmental study, and then you go through and you do an appraisal, and then you work with the landowner to buy the land.
I would think you'd want to work with the landowner first and then do those other things second and third.
Absolutely, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. But the reason why the federal government does that is they want to know that the land they're buying is suitable for the proposed use. So that's the EA study. And then they want to make sure that your communication with that landowner, you're talking about a value that, you're talking about the appraised value. You negotiate based on the appraised value. So if you start talking to the landowner at the beginning, if you start talking about values and location, you can start getting yourself locked up before knowing what the value really is and if that land is even suitable. So in the federal government eyes, you do the EA first, then you do the appraisal, then you talk to the landowner. In this case, we want to make sure that the landowner is willing, and we won't have a signed agreement with him, but at least know that we're on the same page heading into this project before we spend any money on the EA study. So if you propose, or if you want to wait until after that meeting is scheduled for this afternoon, so we can come back and do this in 2 weeks, if that's preferred.
I'd prefer to table it. I don't know what you guys, the rest of you think, but
I would agree.
I was thinking we should accept the grant either way and move forward on the next 2 steps.
I don't think the grant's going to have much to do with the purchasing of the land. It's going to pay for kind of like the line, some of our county money.
So can we say that this grant money is only going to be used for the culvert and the chip reader?
I think that's internal to manage. If you accept the grant now, we will hold off on the EA until the board is ready to move forward with that.
And then we can use some of that.
And if we don't, that portion will go back to the Arlen Falk Foundation.
Well, if we ask Arlen Falk, he might let us use it, or whoever's in charge for building a little building to put our courtesy car in. That's could be used for that.
Yeah, so that is what I would propose, is that so each of these 3 projects are going to move forward separately on their own timeline. If we do not have a use for all this money, either from the EA study being tabled to a future date, we don't have a use for it right now, or if any of these other projects come in under budget, under the estimate, there may be some extra money left over, my recommendation would be to go back to the Arlen Falk Foundation and ask them, can we use it for this other use instead of giving it back? They might work with us as long as it's being used at the airport.
Well, I'm okay with the fact that we could, use it for the first 2 portions and then hold off. Bob?
That said, I'll make a motion to accept the Arlen Falk grant in its entirety, knowing that we don't necessarily have the $6,000 being used depending on the EA situation, but that we accept the grant as it stands right now.
Seconded.
Teresa seconded, and I just want to reiterate what Bob in his motion made there. So it's strictly for withholding this 6,000. All right. Any more discussion? If not, we'll proceed with a roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
and District 5.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to, I think we're done with you, Brian, aren't we? Oh, we got one more last one here.
Well-
We want to take care of that one right away, or
That we actually will have to table
number
that.
12?
We
Okay.
don't have a final
Okay.
document ready to sign.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, I'm going to stick around here for the chloride discussion, but I'll
Yep.
be doing other stuff. So
Okay. Okay. Number 8, consider approval of local option disaster abatement and credits request for Donnie Chose, Yucatan Township. Cindy?
I'll address this one first if she's not.
Okay.
This one comes through as you're aware, they had a house fire. And so this one's separate from a property tax abatement, essentially. And so the board, or we will have the option to levy for the money later if we wish to. It is a small amount, so I don't think we'd have to do that. But
I make a motion to accept the abatement and credit request from Donnie Chose.
I'll second the motion, but this is the one I had the question on with regard to the vouchers. This is on the basis that because the house is gone, the property value went down, and that's where the abatement comes from, correct?
correct.
I'm back
That's
to answer a question if you have it, Bob.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to know, is the calculation for the abatement is based on, since the house was destroyed, the tax would just change to the tax on the land and not on the house, right?
Correct. What we did was we took what was the house, the garage, and 1 acre taxed. And then we took what was left after the fire, and that was just the garage, or just like 1 acre and that. So we put the tax on just that. And then we had to take every month of the year that they did not reside in it. So we started with June and did the 7 months because they did stay there sometime in May.
Yeah, the fire was in May 7th, and then after that, it's been, yep.
And they won't be there this year. They're just starting to rebuild.
Right. Yep.
Now I understand how it came to pass. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, motion's been made in second. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
and 5.
Yes.
I got a question for Cindy. Did the Cords family get this credit? I don't recall. I was just curious if.
Family has not talked to me yet on whether they're going to be in this year or not. I have no clue where they are. I know what Donnie is because, I mean, I'm right there, neighbor. But I have no clue where the Cords family is. And yes, we did talk with them, and they have talked with us, but we have to go further with finishing off. They got last year 2 months because it happened in October, but we have not talked to them with this year yet.
Okay, well, he just got a permit to build, so it's been empty this whole time.
Yeah, but I have to talk with him and before we can move forward on what he's going to have.
Okay. All right. Action item number 9, consider approval of property tax abatements for Michael Fort, Matt Kubley, and Daniel Kuhl, and Bob Hafner.
I'll make a motion to approve those abatements because I did question them in advance, so I understood what's going on with the veterans request.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second, but then I'd like Cindy, explain to me one more time quickly what the veterans abatement, how that's.
Okay, yeah. What happened was last year when we were entering that, you know, none of us had ever done that one before because the people that did it are no longer in the office. In error, the data sheet that we do the entry in, the data program says veterans exclusion, and you give the letter that coincides with what the exclusion was, and right after it says percentage. So when it was being entered, it was entered as veterans exclusion with the right allocation letter, and then 70% because it wasn't 100% disability. That was not what was intended there. What was intended there is percentage of ownership, like say 2 brothers own the house. The one brother would only be 50%. So it gave everybody who should have had $150,000 benefit, up to $150,000, up to 105. So we had to go through and find those and give them the other up to $45,000 benefit. So it was just kind of the way that the program was written and the way that it was understood or looked at on our end, and we didn't realize the issue until it was done.
Okay, just again, for clarification, the veteran has to have incurred a disability, is that correct?
Right, and then we get the proof through Robert.
Okay.
Robert's got the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's 2 categories. One provides 100% tax relief. One provides a 70% tax relief. What was entered was the person who entered it all into the system thought they were putting that 70% tax relief in. The column that they filled that 70% into was actually the column for percent ownership of the property.
Right.
Okay, but what percent disability does a veteran have to have?
Well, now that's a question for Rob, I would think.
That is all through them. I just get the information and then we go forward with it.
I'll send you a fact sheet, Jack, on that to share that.
All right, thank you.
On this Matt Kubley thing for 2C land, I know this came up earlier and it was pulled because you need to find more information out. So what more did you find out to get?
I just went through, I had never done a 2C before, and that gets payment differently and all that, and I wasn't sure exactly how to do it, so I just went through, and what we ended up doing was just making the allocation, the code change to 2C and running it through, but I wasn't sure that would work, so I had to kind of go backwards and find out who knew how it would work.
So a 2C land is a managed woodland?
Forest management.
Forest management. I mean, that's a pretty good abatement there, the way it looks here.
Yeah, let me look at it. I don't have a copy. I give my copies to Jeff and Donna.
Yeah, taxes were $1,218, should be $410, so an $808 abatement.
I mean, yeah. Do you have a parcel number on that I can look at real quickly?
I can pull up the abatement sheet if you'd like.
That'd be good.
Yep, 1 second. Oops.
I think that's the rest were veterans, right? Or I'm not sure on that. Yeah.
3 of them were veterans.
To tell you, this is how the process works. When I do abatement, we already have the values that they were taxed on in the computer. What I have to do is go and create a test site for that, or test parcel on that, and then I put in the values or allocations or whatever it should have been. And then once that is done, we go and recalc it, and then I get my differences here, and then I send out the abatement, or I send it to you, and then Donna goes and she actually does the real calculation, not the test, and gets on the books. So on this one, it says it's a $156 abatement.
Oh, well, this one here I got says 808, but
You just got that today?
oh, it was in the packet.
I've got Mr. Kubley's open right here, and
On the other side of it, for where it says for office use only. Well, why does mine say 808?
Where does it say that?
It's right there. It's printed right there.
I don't know what to tell you, Eric.
That's actually a different parcel.
Oh, I'm sorry. So that's not even the same parcel. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. My
Thank you.
printer didn't catch that. So, all right. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Only one question.
Yes, Bob.
All four of these are veteran issues?
No.
3.
Three of them are veteran issues. We only have 3 disability veterans in Houston County, or these
No,
are-
no. This is just a portion. We did some earlier too. So,
Right.
They got missed.
On that, Bob, we had sent out all of the letters at the beginning of the ones that we saw that were erroneous, and we got ours in. We processed those, and we still had some sitting out there, so we sent second letters out to them saying, come on, we can't process it and give you what you deserve until you send us this. And then we got those back. We have one out right now, one abatement that I tried very hard to get it in, but I didn't get it in by this week. And it's like 9 parcels, and it's 3 siblings, and each parcel is owned at a different percentage. There's a couple that are 100% owned by one person, and the rest are owned, like 2 of them might have 16.7%, and the other one has 66%, or they might all have 33%. And that's fine, except for then you have to go in and work on how many are homesteaded and how many are not homesteaded. And it just, when I got to the end, it looked as if there would be an increase in taxes. And it's like, I got to talk to Carol and run through that one. I was not going to submit that one until I double checked that it was all done correctly.
Thank you.
Okay.
so Carol, what was that 808 abatement?
That's
What
for
parcel was that for?
Michael Fort.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's vote.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
District 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
And I'm hitting send here on the Veterans Homestead Property Tax Exclusion fact sheet from the Department of Revenue for your review.
Okay. Action item number 10, consider approving 2021 county fee schedule, updates, addition, and addition of chloride treatment fees. Jeff?
Yes, so we had our public hearing, and sorry, too many screens open. There were no comments related to the fee changes that were made, which really the only fee change on our previous schedule was the addition of the $100 fee for amendments to a septic system. The feedback on the chloride treatment, you all heard the discussion on. There was a general sense of in favor of charging that. Of course, that came from predominantly township folks who saw some fairness with the fees that they charge township residents on gravel roads. There was some discussion about the county still paying a portion of that for them versus charging the whole thing. So right now, I guess what was originally proposed was charging the fees for the chloride treatment, and we have those rolled into the fee schedule. So unless there's discussion on changing those fees as originally proposed.
And the fee proposed is $220 for 250 feet of frontage and $360 for 400 feet of coverage, frontage. Correct?
Correct.
But how do you know what you can charge if you don't know what we paid for the chloride?
The charges are based off of the calculations from the last year's worth of payments and the prices and the price per per foot as provided by the highway department in their review earlier.
If the chloride goes up, the price got to go up too then, correct? If we got to pay more than last year?
Well, our fees would be offset by a year, so I guess, we're making that estimate on what the chloride costs would be. Brian, can you speak to which price we used for the chloride and calculation?
So we're anticipating a slight increase for chloride. Chloride prices do go up, but generally they've been fairly stable. And when we add in our labor and equipment costs and stuff, chloride plays a factor. That price of chloride plays a factor, but we would be pretty close without knowing what the exact 2021 price is going to be.
But last year you charged like 24 or 25 cents a gallon to put that on. We can't hardly put that on for that anymore, can we? We're running a man and fuel and truck. 25 cents a gallon.
No, what the price ultimately was $1.31 per gallon is the charge that we applied. So that's so that's the applied price. So you have the chloride itself varies, but it's in that dollar range, sometimes a little bit under. Once in a while goes a few cents over, and then you figure that the remainder is the truck and the labor. So that's that roughly 30 plus cents a gallon.
Well, you paid $1.06 for it last year, correct? The gallon.
I don't have that spreadsheet open up in front of me right now.
I got it here, Brian.
Well, I guess what we're considering here is the fee schedule. Maybe you want to separate this out to the chloride part and the from the regular schedule, or did you just want to do one package deal here?
Last year's price was 99.8 cents a gallon for the chloride itself, plus application on top of that.
What was that, Greg?
I was just going to say we should go with whatever we charge the townships the same, and anybody on a county road, we could give them a $50 rebate to start out with. That's an option.
So it would, I don't know if you'd call it a rebate, you'd call it a $50 credit.
Yeah, that's what townships do. Some of them, they range from $50 to $100. They give back. So, I mean, we're first starting out. We don't know how many we're going to have, so maybe we should just give $50 back to start out. We can always raise it up.
So, in other words, what we'll do is it'll be $220 for 250 feet with a $50 credit applied, and same way for the 360 for 400 feet with a $50 credit applied. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Along with all the other fees on this schedule? Or is that how we want to do it, everybody, or?
Whatever the price of the chloride is.
Okay. Bob?
Just from the perspective of the people that live on the gravel county roads. I'm talking with Brian in the land use committee meeting this morning. The general county road usage is 10 to 15 times more than the township. So there's considerably more traffic on at least most of these township gravel or county gravel roads than the township deals with. So, I mean, the people that live on the county roads have an expectation of some support from the county as far as their roads are concerned, because of the additional usage that they see compared to the township, my opinion. And talking, I mean, the county can make cuts on those areas where there's non-residential property, non-residential buildings that have been chlorided in the past, as well as some of the non-chloride areas, excluding those areas that are required because of safety purposes. That was $3,500 and $5,500 that we can cut from our chloride usage that we've done in the past. So there's a $9,000 savings. I think treating the county roads the same as the township roads, because of that volume of traffic, isn't correct as far as the residents that live on the county roads.
But we all still pay the same taxes.
Sure.
So why does county people get to have an advantage over the township people? Or is the county better than the township people, or why ain't the township people get the same as the...
Because those people on the county roads have 10 to 15 times more traffic than the township roads.
Come over to my place. I'll bet you I got just as much traffic on my gravel road as any township road or county road. I'll guarantee you that.
It's a guarantee.
Depends on a lot where you live too. I mean, I got excessive dairy farmers around me. And that's getting to be the problem all over, the big farmers. If we're gonna cater to them, then what about the small people?
We did discuss this at land use, like a committee meeting, of course, and it did come up that the traffic is more on the county roads and township roads for the most part. We can cut back by not doing chloride in front of the house trailers or vacation homes or whatever, and say, what did you say, 3,500, Bob? Something like that. And we are a service. We do maintain our county roads. I think we're doing fine, and if we can cut back on where we put the chloride and where it's not needed.
Well, how about all the people who live on the blacktops and they're gonna pay for all this chloride? How do they feel? The consensus was that they wanted everybody to be on a level playing field that night, so I would think everybody gets charged, and if we want to give a discount, we give a discount. How big? That's up to you guys. Don't matter.
Was that a motion, Greg, or what?
Yep, I'll make an motion that everybody gets charged the same, township, county, and then we can give rebates back or a discount as much as we want to anybody on the road, on the county roads.
I guess, point of order, I'd have to clarify that because not all the townships charge the same rates and same fees and such. So I think you need to define.
We're just talking about county roads here. We're not talking about townships. That's out of the picture. So what we're just discussing here is the county road application. And so I understand, if I understand Greg correctly, your motion is to have a $50 credit towards a $220 250-foot frontage, and also for a $360 fee for a 400-foot coverage.
Correct. That's my motion.
This is just for county roads. We're not talking township or nothing here.
Townships all have their own different deals.
Right.
So just county roads.
Okay, motion's been made for that. Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Any further discussion?
So the people that live on county gravel roads are now going to come to the county and say, hey, I live on a county gravel road. Some people live on a blacktop county road. I want blacktop on my county road.
Yeah.
And we're going to say, well, we do chloride the same for everybody. We should do blacktop the same for everybody. Because the townships don't have to worry about that, but the county does. So we're going to, I mean, let's look at a kettle of fish and what we're opening up.
I hear you.
There's a lot of them that come to the township and want seal coating done too, so.
That's up to the township, not us.
Teresa, you had something to say?
Some townships don't charge their residents on township roads. So why would we want to start charging for our county road people?
That's because that's the township's option. They can afford it. They have it in their budget. I mean, that's their decision to give it away if they want to. They probably only have 5, maybe 6 people that get chloride too. You know, you got to remember that. There could be 3 people in one township getting chloride, so they pay for all 3. That's up to the township.
Now,
And this is up to us.
we have to remember that we're making decisions for the county. Townships, if they choose to be a township.
Right. This is strictly for county roads we're talking about. Yep.
That's right.
What did we have the hearing for then? Everybody at the hearing said we want to pay for the chloride. So why did we have a hearing if we're not going to stand up to the hearing?
The hearing is to take input. It doesn't mean we agree or disagree with what the input from the hearing was.
What was most of the input though? What was the input?
Depends on who you were listening to. Everybody that was there was from the townships. I mean, we didn't have any.
Hey, that wasn't our problem. We had to be there.
Well, yeah, I think we're getting into argument more than a discussion here. So, Brian, you had your hand up. I don't know if.
Yeah, Joe, I just wanted one clarification. This maybe can be before or after the vote, but if we have someone that wants to do a longer stretch of roadway, so they want to pay for 2 400-foot sections of roadway instead of 1 400-foot, or a combination of a 400-foot and a 250-foot section, that $50 discount or credit or whatever you want to call it, that applies once total per landowner, right? Not
right. That's the way I take it. Is that right, Greg? It's just a $50 credit for a one-time application for a 250-foot stretch or a 400-foot stretch.
And then if they want more than that, we just figure out a per foot.
They'd have to pay extra for that. Does that clarify it, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I would just opine that if chloriding county gravel helps us to avoid paving all the gravel roads, definitely in favor of doing what we're doing.
Proceed with
paving.
We'll proceed with roll call if there's no other further discussion.
District 1.
No.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
No.
District 4.
No.
District 5.
Yes.
Motion fails 3-2.
So we're going back to the original fee schedule. Do we need a motion to approve the fee schedule, the rest of it?
How about a motion to approve the fee schedule minus the chloride fees?
Is there a motion to approve the fee schedule minus the chloride?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Any further discussion?
Now, just from my perspective, understanding what you guys were saying as far as the fees and whatnot, I just don't think, when you look at what the county's going to have to do, we're going to have to spend time to go out and measure these areas, determine where it's going to be. I mean, the county's going to be spending money to make a determination of who gets the chloride, and then, how it's going to all work out. There's going to be a cost as far as that's concerned.
And we're talking about the regular rest of the fee schedule now, Bob.
I know it. I'm backing up to
oh, you are
here. And if we do a chloride charge, taking into consideration the extra cost, I just think the full cost, like what the townships are looking at, some of them, not all of them, if we do a lesser charge to take into consideration the county's cost, I might not be against all of that, but But we're talking about doing a full charge with just a $50 credit wasn't worth it. Now go ahead with the vote.
What kind of charge are you thinking? I mean, that's opened us up. You know, I mean,
Well, wait, no, we've already had our vote and it's failed. So we need to move forward with the rest of the fee schedule. We need to approve the fee schedule. So that we can bring this all back up again as far as the chloride part of it. Okay.
I think we should get more facts and figures next year. And we do have a motion to approve the fee schedule.
The remainder of the fee schedule.
Right.
Yep. All right. Any more discussion? We did have a second, didn't we?
Yes.
All right.
Miller Walter. Yeah. All right. So the rest of the fee schedule, District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
no,
Okay. Motion passes 4-1.
Okay. Consider approving a change to the solid waste program fee schedule to cities and townships. Aaron, I guess you're on this. And Teresa and Greg, you're on the committee for this.
Yeah, the original proposal discussed with the community at the public hearing was to change the per household per month fee from $3.50 to $4. That fee is based off of the cost of the solid waste program minus the cost of personnel, which is what the fee schedule was originally based off of and last adjusted about 5 years ago. Feedback at the public hearing ranged from approval and acceptance of the fee to concern over the cost at the city level. So the cities showed less favor for it. The other concern raised was that we're out of cycle with the township budgets. And so they would like a little bit more time to prepare for it and suggested considering a stair approach. And rather than a 50-cent change, maybe a 10-cent change this year.
I know Greg and I were on that committee and had a lot of discussion on this, and I did go to my townships about it. And because of the budget cycle, they haven't budgeted for the extra 50 cents. And I propose that maybe we raise it 25 cents for 2021 and then another 25 for 2022 so they can budget for it.
Is that a motion?
I'll make that a motion, but Greg, do you have more input on that?
oh, I agree with you, Teresa. I think 25 this year and 25 next year. I'll second your motion.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with roll call.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
And District 5?
Yes.
Okay.
And action item number 12 is off the table. We don't have that ready yet.
Correct.
Okay. Discussion. Go ahead, Teresa.
We'll go back to our consent agenda.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Good thing someone's paying attention here. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jack seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed with the roll call.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
And District 5?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Now we can move on to discussion items. Administrator updates.
All right. I'll turn the floor over to Tess here. We've shared with you some information related to the historic courthouse stairs project. We've been informed that our grant application was approved. However, we don't have the paperwork to bring that formally for approval just yet. So with that, I'll let her share some details of the options we have. Tess?
No, we still can't hear you. You got your headphones plugged in? Hey, yeah, it's this little doohickey here.
The one I just bumped and was muted on. Yep.
Now?
There you go. There you go.
No.
Now?
Yeah.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. First morning with the headset. My apologies. I think I've got it figured out. I sent you folks some information through Jeff a little earlier. What we did, just by way of background, is we went and had a local contractor give us an estimate of what it would cost if they did the steps. It is a different design. The materials would be different. Of course, the requirements wouldn't be to historic specifications, but they would be with a stone veneer covers, and they would be using stone tiling to put it back together as a finish, excuse me. That estimate came in at $82,500. That is includes demolition and removal. What we have since that time, we learned that our grant application was approved. This was a matching grant, which would require commitment from the county of $71,510. So it's about $11,000 difference. Of course, the requirements, that project would be different. It would be going back to historic. The steps would be going in as close as feasible to historic duplication. We've received notification, but we haven't received the proposed agreement yet, which includes our milestones and our accountability for the project. So it is a cost savings to the county if at that time when we receive the grant contract, if we were to go with accept the grant contract, and we have a savings then to the county rather than doing it ourselves.
Jack?
Yes. Do you know what it would cost to replace them historically?
We don't have those. That we have to go through an RFP process for that. I would be hoping that it would come in something far less than what we estimated, which was the estimate. I don't have that. Sorry, I don't have that in front of me, but I recall it was
$143,000.
Well, that includes all the administrative fees and the contingency fee and the oversight by the historic architect.
Well, that's what the cost would be, right?
Yes, but I thought sorry, I assume he meant just the cost of the steps themselves.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm getting at is the grant, if we were to match the grant, we would come out flush. There'd be no under or overage to.
We would come out $11,000 to our favor if we use the grant.
That's because you're going off the Sharmer bid.
Correct, Commissioner. That's based on
what Jack is getting at is if the historic bid comes, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
if the historic bid comes in at, let's say 110,
mm-hmm.
Do we still get the 75,000 from the state, and then our portion is less, or is it 50-50?
Now, how they do that is they break out the cost of replacement of the steps themselves. They match up to a certain dollar, and then we match up to that dollar, and then the administrative, like I said, the RFP and all those other costs. So it's not.
It's 50-50 then.
It is 50-50 up to the 71.5.
Correct.
Okay.
So it cost $82,000 to put the steps in. That was your bid for new steps?
That was the estimate from Sharmer LLC.
And so, where are we gonna, can we use the 71,000 of the grant money and then we fill out the rest, or how does it work?
Well, in order to use the grant money, I'm sorry, Commissioner?
If it's only 82,000 to put the steps on, why do we need to spend 140?
Okay, they are two different projects in that the materials are different and the construction is different. The 140 is for historic duplication, 143. The other is to put steps up with a veneer facade over it to help them, make them look as, have them as sturdy and make them look as close as possible to the structure we have without meeting historic requirements. So they are two different projects. Maybe the RF, I have no idea what our RFPs will come in as far as for the contractors. We could come in well under that amount. We might not have any 10% contingency that we have to deal with. The stone costs are always a variable.
But if we got to accept the grant first, so then
We would have to accept the grant first.
yeah, so then we have no control of what after the fact. So I think we should consider doing an RFP, a bid from local contractors in the county to give us a quote on them steps before we accept any grant.
Okay.
And this is all for discussion. This isn't a proposal. I'm just saying this is just a discussion item. So, Bob?
With regard to that, when you say an RFP, the Sharmer one gets expensive because they're putting this veneer on and everything.
Yep.
You're talking about putting in just basic concrete steps, maybe stamped, but no veneer, no fanciness.
Yep.
There's this. Okay.
Yep.
Just make sure I understood.
Yep, that's what I was getting at. Yep.
So if I'm understanding, you would like to hear a local estimates for concrete only?
I think so.
That's what I'm saying. Jack?
Tess, the push for the historical aspect of it, did that come from the Historical Society, or what was the impetus for that?
Well, the impetus way back was when we were looking for money to see what we could do about replacing the steps. There was a discussion that they would like to have, I believe, with the board, as well as the Historic Society. Gosh, there's been so many conversations over the years about it, to see what grant money was available. So I went out and wrote these grants to see what we could get. That is if you accept the grant money from the state, then we have to follow their guidelines, of course. We have to go through an RFP process with them, and we would be requesting local bids from folks locally to bid on putting those steps in. The biggest, there is a lot of involved in not just simply the demolition of it, but also the support structures that have to be in place for steps that are that size. I mean, it's a pretty big area you're talking about. They're not just building steps up to your house.
Okay.
If you look at the, I can supply you some of the details. It's substantial. Well, I did supply you part of those details in one of the drawings so that you saw how large it is.
You got to have a footing and all that, frost footing and all that.
Yep. Yeah. So, they aren't going to be inexpensive in any way, but we can get concrete. I can find out how much taking the stone off, I can probably just get a good estimate if you wish.
Well, I think
from
we need
Scheimer's
to,
if we
I
remove
think
the
we,
Scheimer.
what we need to do is get specific requirements that we would like to see. But myself personally, I would like to keep it simple, like Bob was saying, simple concrete steps, and so people have an idea what they're bidding on here. So
Absolutely, they have to know what we're asking of them.
yep. Jack.
I guess I would just agree. I guess I'm not a I'm not a history buff, but I'm disappointed by destruction of, say, the lacrosse courthouse and other historic buildings and that. But as far as these steps are concerned, I don't think anyone's going to have a big issue over, oh gosh, they don't look like the steps I knew 100 years ago. I mean, it just seems to me to be, let's look at the cost and let's look at the efficiency and the safety.
Yep.
I agree with you, Jack, and I think we need to put out an RFP for concrete steps and with specifics that we want. And we did talk last week of possibly if we could get going at it using care money because they are used for voting purposes.
Yep. Yep.
But either way, we should be able to do it for under 70,000, I would think. And I'm not a concrete person either, but.
Well, I don't like the fact that we've been throwing these big numbers around, so the contractor's going to say, there's probably some room there. But, I think let's give some specific requirements, concrete, something that looks nice with a railing, frost footing and all that stuff. And
yep, I agree.
So if we use the CARES Act instead of the grant, then why don't we use the CARES Act money?
That's what Teresa was getting at. Then we could try to get this under the funding source. But now, what's the timeline for this grant? Do we get so many days to accept this or deny this?
Well, they haven't sent us any documentation to accept or deny, so I'll get on this other right away so that we know, and we'll ask for a short turnaround.
So before you send out that RFP, will we have a chance to look that over?
Well, it might be quickest, absolutely, but it might be quickest if there's a commissioner or two that you would like me to send it to, or do you want it to come back to the full committee or the full board? Which way do you prefer?
Is there a building committee? Bob, are you on that?
I'm on the JC committee. I think you and Jack are on the committee. I'll look at it. That's fine.
Well, I'm just trying to think of who's on if the building, is it part of the personnel committee then, or I don't know if there is a strictly building committee. Is there? I'm asking.
No, I don't think we do, but I can send, we'll put an RFP together and we'll send it out to you to review.
All right.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
On that note, let's see. Aaron has an update on the drop site facilities.
Okay.
Aaron?
Commissioners, previously you had approved a not to exceed number for 5 sheds for the drop site. At that point, we had bids from Caledonia Lumber for a 12 by 12 shed at around $7,500 per shed. So for a total of about $37,500, but those bids did not include the delivery of the buildings to the drop sites. I've been working with them to try to arrange for that, but with no luck thus far. On 11/16, they provided me a number for delivery of 5 10 by 12 sheds delivered to each site at a cost of $10,500 per shed. That number would exceed the total.
No.
Oh, that's true.
We're not going to do that. Aaron, I was going to tell you, I ran into a guy I followed a semi into Quick Trip at Caledonia when I was getting parts one day, and he had just delivered a shed. And he's from Iowa, and he works for this company in Floyd, Iowa. And I could call this number and see what they would charge to deliver these sheds, if that would help.
Okay, commissioners, I dropped off for a moment there, so I apologize. Eric, you were saying you had any help, I guess, in terms of the delivery would be appreciated. I did get some contacts from the highway department. Reached out to two of them and heard back from one, and they are not able to do it. Basically, what I'd be looking for today from the board is maybe some more latitude in how I seek these. I did reach out to two other contractors, one from Houston and one from Winona, to ask about, is there any way you could fit this into your schedule? Everyone's
booked. I'm assuming that's.
Oh, he dropped again here. It looks like I think everyone else is.
When he brought it up at committee too, that because of our motion was to limit
50
with Caledonia Lumber, he would like the leniency to look at other contractors and still keep it at that 50,000 level and not just limit it to Caledonia Lumber.
Okay, but so what?
And he did find somebody, was it out of Winona, Bob? I don't remember where, but that was kind of interested in it and would be able to move on it if he had the leniency to go with somebody else.
To move it, not to build it, right?
No, to build it.
And move it.
And move it.
Oh, so we're talking a whole different, but we just approved the Caledonia Lumber to build them.
Okay, Eric?
Yeah.
There was just a old garage shed moved from Shore Acres to Caledonia by a gentleman on Shore Acres a month ago. So let me give him a call too and see who did that. Because I know that's where it was going.
Okay, yeah. And like I said, I got this number from this trucker to call this company in Floyd, Iowa. And he was pulling a trailer with a bunch of rollers on it, so it'd work real slick to move a shed like that. So, but I had to talk to this company in order to get a quote. So,
what are we voting on now?
What size sheds are we building, Aaron?
12 by 12.
What?
well, no, I guess no longer. With Caledonia Lumber now, I've asked them to price out 8 by 12s to try to get the cost down. They priced out 10 by 12s for me, and the cost of the 10 by 12s actually went up from what they had previously quoted the 12 by 12s at. So again, the cost for a 10 by 12 shed delivered was $10,500 per shed.
Okay, delivered.
My worry here is that the purpose of these is for cold weather. Time is running out. What I would be asking for is leniency to go down to an 8 by 12 up to a 12 by 12, and then leniency to take anyone who could do it in time frame that's acceptable.
I get it.
I've gone back and forth.
Yeah, we lost him again. I see what he's saying now. So he wants leniency on.
Leniency to check out other places.
Yeah, to find the best value that can deliver them.
That's fine.
Well, do we want to rescind the vote then for Caledonia Lumber to go back out and redo this? Do we want to change that, or you just want to just go and do it?
Yeah, how are we gonna?
We made a motion for Caledonia Lumber, didn't we?
Yep.
Do we need to redo that or not?
I think we need to redo it, legitimate.
But we can't. It's not on the action item here. It's on a discussion item. So.
Okay.
Well, we could give them a consensus today to get other quotes and move on it next week too.
And then we could rescind our motion, or
that would work.
I
think that would work.
Have to do some checking on that.
Okay.
Well, I think we have a consensus to have them look at other options and see what we can get for the best value and in a timely manner. So, And then we'll have to check in on this, what we did last time here. So I know.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Yeah, go ahead.
Apology for the bad connection. It seems like every time I try to address you, it crashes on me.
Yeah, you sound weird.
Aaron, I'll give you a call and fill you in on the details here, but the board has reached consensus to explore other options, and I'll talk you through how we do that.
And in fairness to Caledonia Lumber, I know what they're facing with materials here. Each day it changes and it goes up and down, and it's crazy and it's hard to come by. So I think the biggest cost here is just to getting them moved. So I mean, it could be a possibility we have Caledonia Lumber still build them if we could find somebody that could move them reasonably. So
It might go to the 8-foot.
What's that, Bob?
That it might help to go to the 8-foot wide building, because then you got a lot easier to move, because you don't have to have the zoning.
You don't have to. Yep. Don't have to have a wide load permit. All right.
Well, even like a 10-foot, you could throw that on a round bale mover, couldn't you, Eric?
Yeah. As long as you don't get caught.
10 foot wide. I mean,
Yeah. It's not a round bale though.
yeah.
Okay. Jeff, you got anything else?
Yeah. So, kind of back to our topic with public health this morning. The commissioners did all receive a letter from MDH last night. Looks like that did go out to a variety of the cities and things too. So I'll forward it to the rest to make sure they have it. But in that letter, MDH is pointing out to the county that we've hit a point. Sorry, my screen is not cooperating here.
I was hoping when I saw where that letter came from, it was an apology, but I guess
right.
that wasn't.
Yeah. So the start of the letter reads that we're writing to make sure we're aware that Houston County currently has a high positive. Make sure that we're aware that the county currently has a high positivity rate of greater than 5%. It reflects the number of tests that were positive over the total number of tests performed in our county in the most recent 14-day period. Having a positivity rate of 5% means the spread of the virus in your county has reached a concerning level. And then goes on specifically to address concerns over long-term care facilities and the actions that they will need to take to include, if that rate were to go over 10%, skilled nursing and assisted living facilities would no longer be able to allow visitors beyond essential caregivers and compassionate care.
Well, on that subject, what are we going to do for the auditor's office? Those gals are struggling. They're getting their stuff done in a timely fashion. We need to do some quick action here, and whether it be hiring a floater to help them out there in this time of great need. What is everybody's thoughts on that?
So just a couple of things to address, just to put facts out there. CDC guidance, MDH guidance on quarantine period is 14-day quarantine period from the time of last contact. And there is no testing out. A negative test does not get you out of the quarantine period from a CDC or MDH status. So that's what's out there as guidance on that. It goes, and that is, I mean, it's a particularly onerous and painful requirement. You can actually be out longer as a quarantine than you can be as somebody who has tested positive. Mm-hmm. So that's part of what we're up against there. When we assess risk on things, when we discuss somebody perhaps coming in at night when nobody else is around, when we discuss cordoning off an area at the office where quarantine people can go to and the rest stay out of, it does bring a certain amount of risk to the rest of the people in the office that haven't been exposed yet. And it's hard to define what is safe and what isn't safe from that perspective. The spread of the virus is predominantly aerosol and in the air rather than, on surface and touching things. So the longer those people that are on quarantine are in the building, the higher that risk of exposure and transmission and putting it into the air system is. But all that being said, we do have requirements to finish election activity. We do have requirements to accept tax payments. And so we've got to be able to, some of that stuff we can wait on and delay, and we can bundle up paperwork and hand it to somebody, an employee that's not allowed in the building. But
what can we delay on? I don't think we can delay on this canvassing report. We can't delay on the tax payments.
I think we can delay on tax payments. We did it once already this year.
Well, okay.
Well, it's a matter of if we receive from them daily, or if we, accept them, and then one of those employees picks it up and does the receipting at night without coming into the building to pick up the paperwork. We can scan documents and share documents electronically.
So what was expressed to you at Land Use Committee, Teresa and Bob, on this situation? I mean, you, Bob, you kind of touched on it earlier, but
Yeah.
Well, we're just talking with regard to, we've got people in the courthouse who, because of the situation, are quarantined. We've got other people that were possibly in contact with these people that are still coming back into work because they haven't said anything. So there's all kinds of stuff. I see county staff around town going to restaurants, no mask, going to Quick Trip, no mask. So we're not setting a very good example as far as our employees are concerned, but I guess that's their personal right. But within the courthouse, we need to do something or have some kind of a policy. We got things that have to be done. It was interesting. Donna was talking about having talked to, you talk to Mayo and you get one instruction. You talk to Gunderson, you get a different kind of instruction. There's different policies, different opinions, different practices. Greg was talking about people that if they test negative and going back to work because they're essential, they have to. There isn't anybody to take their place. Right. We got the same situation in the auditor's office. We don't have anybody. You hire somebody that's a 67-day employee that doesn't have a clue of what they're doing. They aren't going to get anything done as far as the election tabulation or as far as taxes. Sorry, Jack.
Okay, is what needs to be done, Jeff or whomever, accounting type work?
Some of it, yes. I think the election stuff is probably different than accounting type work. Donna can address the specifics, I guess, but I think the tax payment side of it is accounting work.
Okay.
What is the election? What needs to get done for the canvassing board?
Commissioners, I just want to say something. This is Donna. Actually, what needs to be done, and as you are well aware, we have been receiving in ballots that are postmarked as of November 3rd. Okay, so we have two right now that we got two last week that we had to, three of them. I'm sorry, that we had to scan through the DS200. We have uploaded that to the state on Friday. And we have two more that we have to upload to the state. We are also working on trying to get this program figured out to get our write-ins to come out exactly to what we have, okay? We have a lot of write-ins, as you know, and we have some reports we have to review that came from the Secretary of State yesterday that they want us to make sure to check because there's a little bit of a discrepancy. Nothing serious. It's like one or two, but we have to get to the bottom of it, and we have to make sure that everything is exact when we send it in as the Canvas report, okay? So those kind of things are something that has to be done by Polly and myself. Anybody else that came in there probably, if you've never done it before or looked at it, it would be very difficult to try to figure that out, especially when we've been working with it, the whole time. And that has to be done by Thursday at 1 at 1 p.m. We have to have everything all finished and sent to this, or I should say we have to have it all to agree and make sure that all the write-ins are correct and everything is recorded properly. So that's the biggest thing right now.
Can you do that from home, Donna?
No, we have to get to the standalone computer.
And you're on quarantine?
Yes.
Till when?
Till next Wednesday.
Till when?
Next Wednesday.
Oh, jeez.
14 days.
So you got what, 24 hours to get that ready for Canvas on Thursday?
Correct.
And
the office is supposed to be closed tomorrow. I mean, we would be willing to come in with anything that is necessary: shields, masks, gowns. I don't.
So what you're looking for is approval of somehow making this work so you can get this done.
Right.
As a county board here, and I'm all for trying to help you out, try to get this done, and whether you have to wear a full suit, I don't know if we have one, but
She did test negative. It's just that she was in contact with.
Yeah.
I've tested negative. Polly has not received her test back yet because she had some issues up in Winona. Poor gal, she had a couple of issues with it. So unless she hears this afternoon, but I got mine back right away and I was negative.
So is Polly still available?
Yes. Well, she's available, yes, and she's fine. None of us are sick.
Does it need to be both of you or just you can do it?
I can probably do it without her, but it would be easier if it was both of us so we could, make sure. It is quite a process, and being that she's pretty much been uploading things herself, I mean, it would be nice to have her there, but like I said,
if she gets her test back, and if she gets her test, go ahead.
He probably has less exposure than some of the other ones in the county, I would say, as far as that goes. But I asked her if she'd get tested just because.
In my opinion, if you both test negative, I would think you could come in and do your work, stay secluded to your office, and get it done. I'm fine with that, and take all the precautions that we can.
Well, is Polly there today?
Oh no.
No, she's quarantined too, Jack.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. I thought.
No.
No, we've been quarantined since we found out.
It's kind of essential that you guys get back in there, so I would think if you're negative, I would have no problems of you going into the office if you wear a mask, and I think we've got to do it.
And we definitely wear a mask all the time.
And wash your hands.
Oh, yes. And sterilize everything when we're finished.
Yep.
There would be segregation from the other employees.
There'd have to be.
Everybody there.
Because like Mary is right there, you're down the hallway, just to keep that, because I'm sure Mary would be concerned about you coming in because like they said yesterday, even though you test negative, in 3 days, you could test positive.
Yeah, but Carol, we were thinking about coming in when there's nobody in the office and the courthouse is closed.
Oh, okay. Well, now we're talking.
Yeah, we wouldn't even come in during the day when nobody was there.
Okay.
After hours.
That would be fine with me.
I think we need to hire a floater too. Somebody young that we can work in down there. You got the treasurer, you got the recorder, auditor, license center. I'm sure they can fill in with this COVID. Probably a good idea to hire somebody to be a
floater. I think we should look into that, Carol.
Yeah, I think so too, Carol.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a permanent floater that gets trained? Are we talking a 67-day? You aren't going to have somebody that can.
Yeah, I think we probably need to do an analysis of what we have and maybe some of our procedures, to kind of do an overall.
Yeah,
look at it.
I would agree with Carol. I think it's a prime time. We've talked about this before and it never took traction, but I think we need to really look at centralizing our finance operation countywide so that we know exactly what skills we have, where they're at, and where they can transfer in an issue like this. Could we bring somebody from social services? Could we bring somebody from highway? We've got accounting all over the county, but nothing is centralized.
Well, how long have we been talking about that, Jack, and it still hasn't happened?
That's
Now we're in crisis mode and we need some help. So
right. Yeah. I would be in agreement with letting Donna and Polly come in whenever they can with the office empty and get this, hopefully this crisis behind us.
okay. I think we have a consensus there.
Yeah.
So no holiday for Donna.
Never has been.
All right.
See, and that's what shouldn't be. You shouldn't have to be there every holiday. You shouldn't have to be there until 8 o'clock at night.
No.
You know.
Yep. And they shouldn't be, because you're just going to burn out, so.
But I have to say, commissioners, this has been a really rough year, and I think everybody can consent to that because of the elections and the way things are going. So I don't expect that next year whatsoever. So that's my plan anyway. But we have to go in tonight because we have to contact, there's a gal from the office that is going to assist us with these write-in shrinkages. You might say you're going to shrink the images, and she's going to be available this evening, but not until I think it's after 8 o'clock. So we have to go in after 8 o'clock tonight, and we won't get a hold of her. So that is our plan. And yeah, she won't be around tomorrow. So we only have one window of about 1.5 hours that we have to get this completed.
Okay.
Don, I'll talk
right.
with you afterwards and see if there's anything else I can do this afternoon to prep and make the best use of your time when you come in.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, commissioners.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Have we done commission reports yet?
We have not. I'll let you guys go. Go ahead.
Do you have something else you want to bring up, Jeff? Or?
Nothing that can't wait.
Well, I don't want to cut you off early here.
No, that's fine.
Teresa?
Mine can all wait till next week. I got 3 meetings on Thursday, so I'll give you a report next week.
Sounds fair. Bob?
I don't know what you want me to take this. It's only 12:30. If I talk about everything, I got a half an hour's worth of stuff, so. I can.
You could catch it at workshop.
Report it at the workshop, yeah.
Okay. Greg?
Not much. Took in a SEMCAC meeting last night. They had a kind of an annual awards and everything to give out. Their biggest thing in their budget is the insurance going up so high. They're having the same trouble as everybody else, insurance premiums and stuff going up. And outside of that, they're doing pretty well.
All right. Jack?
All I would add is tomorrow's Veterans Day, so thank you to all the veterans. And as far as La Crosse is concerned, Miller's getting new shingles on Shore Acres Road, and that's why it's raining.
It always rains on your parade, Jack.
It does. It does.
I don't have anything stressing at this point, so Jeff, if you wanted to add in something quick here.
Bob does.
No, it's fine. It'll wait till next
Okay.
week.
Bob?
Regard to the Agadol situation,
Mhm.
how are we going to move forward with that?
Well, I think we need to have a discussion with Aaron and see where we're at on that. I mean,
We're kind of at an impasse. I'm not sure what we can do to help alleviate the situation. The Agadals are falling back on that. They sent an email to the prior zoning administrator with some information and got a response back that they're interpreting as affirming the information that they sent. The response back was a okay, thanks. It wasn't a validation of the information. The zoning office at the time did send the property owner a letter sharing the proper elevation of the floodplain. It appears that letter was not shared with the builder and the surveyor and all that. So there are some factual dispute that could be argued to the basis of all that, as far as how we got into the situation. How we get out of the situation, it's a little tricky because it's not really in our hands.
Whose hands is it in? DNR?
Aaron contacted the DNR. The DNR looked it over, came up with a plan, a potential plan, to put a waterway around. I mean, there's the existing drive.
It's a berm.
Not a berm. It's a waterway. Starting, the creek comes down and makes a sharp corner, goes around their property, comes back. A water in that corner, which would have a swale that brings any overflow water around the building.
Okay.
Back to the trout stream.
Yep.
It would have to meet the DNR's requirements, and I don't know if the DNR requirements and FEMA requirements. I mean, FEMA is a levy, and FEMA's levy. I mean, those are big, dramatic deals. The swale issue. Aaron, you want to tell about that?
DNR did a preliminary review, so they didn't develop a plan. They looked at it and said, this option appears to be possible to remedy this situation. At this point, the Agadals have made contact with an engineering firm that could put the meat on the bones, and then we could go through the process of approving that plan at the county level and at the DNR level and at the FEMA level, if whatever levels are necessary. From my perspective, what they continue to contact about is who's going to, number one, pay for that plan. I continue to tell them that that's not something I'm able to do and give them feedback on who's going to pay for the plan. I can't tell them the zoning office is going to pay for the plan. That's more of a county board function. What I suggested is that they get a preliminary estimate as to what that might cost. I heard Dave throw some numbers out this morning. Those, it sounded to me, were numbers that had to do more with the berm option, which I don't know the option that they can choose to solve this any way they would like, but I don't know if that's the option that makes the most sense, because the berm is kind of like the berm the city of Houston has. It may be overkill for the problem that presents itself to them.
The way I gathered it from what Dave said, the $15,000 just for the application and all that, it had nothing to do with plans on building a berm or anything. Am I wrong on that, Bob? Or
that's the way it sounded to me.
Yeah.
My understanding is that if you want to take an area out of a floodplain based on a berm, the application fee is some number like that. But again, I don't know that if they were looking at the waterway, not a berm, a waterway option, that there's an application fee that's, that's set like that. So I think that there might be some confusion in there as to how we want to solve it. And ultimately, it is up to them on how they.
Why don't we discuss this at our workshop next time, and that way, and then Aaron could get on a better line, and so we could hear him. We're not going to get nothing accomplished here today.
But should somebody talk to Adam Agadal and get some of these contact information to talk to these people before that?
I'd advise you to do that, Bob.
Right. That's what I'll do.
It's in your district, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So
All right. But Greg,
the main thing is they want to put a brimmer on there of some sort, Bob. Is that what they're looking at? Or
Right now, it's just a question of trying to find out what could be done in order to make the addition onto the building that's currently set too low. What could be done in order to make it so that that elevation is acceptable and get the water in the case of a flood to go around it on either side. Now they're talking about a big berm that goes around like a horseshoe around it. What we had talked about was a swale effect. So a waterway, if it overflows, it's a waterway to direct the water around the building to keep it away. So, and I don't know who this guy that they talked to was and what he's talking about. We had been talking with DNR, not FEMA.
Okay.
So what would be wrong with having soil and water come down there and do a plan, and then we could submit that to the DNR and all these other people to see if it's feasible? Might be a little cheaper option. I don't know.
I'm not under the impression. I'll talk to soil and water too, but I'm thinking that's not in their backwork to put designs together for something like this.
I mean, it might be a cheaper option.
I'll talk.
okay.
Maybe they can design something and everybody will be happy with it. We don't know, I guess, so what the heck?
Yep, I'll talk to him.
All right. It's 12:37. Any more business to be brought before this meeting? If not, is there any closing public comment?
You see that 6359 is still on there.
Yeah.
If 6359 would like to speak, just a reminder to press *6 to unmute your phone.
Nope. Okay.
Going once, twice. Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Are you sure? You sure, Jack?
I'm sure.
Okay. So is there a second to that? Greg?
Yep.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.